A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Five bells. Stand by all stations.
Attention, all districts. A 5-alarm fire. 5 bells. Move in immediately.
That's it. Let's go!
Let's go! Firefighters!
Presenting Firefighters, the true-to-life story of our unsung heroes who stand ready to ride by day or night against our most murderous enemy, the demon of fire. In just a minute, we'll join rookie fireman Tim Collins and his friend Private Mushnosky of the Department Rescue Company on the dock where they have just saved the life of a man believed at first to have been drowned. An hour's work with the inhalator would usually be just routine to these boys. But in this case, reviving the small-time gangster who had been fished out of the water was a personal matter. For he is the only person who can prove that Mushnosky is not involved with a gang of counterfeiters. Why it didn't work out quite this way, you'll see in a minute, after this message. Let's go, firefighters. Let's join that small circle of men who stand around Mushnosky's cousin. The man who says he broke with the counterfeiting gang, came back to the dock to recover the printing plates he'd thrown in the water, had been slugged and left to drown by the mysterious leader of these crooks, Dude Martin. His denial that the young friend of Tim Collins's, Mushnosky, was mixed up in this brings doubt to the face of Detective Sergeant McGurk, who said,
I'd like to believe you, Stan. For the sake of Chief Cody here, I'd like to believe your cousin innocent. For your sake, I'd like to believe the rest of your story.
Listen, cop, I'll prove every word I say.
How?
I'll tell you where the plan is, where they print that phony dough. You make a raid, talk with the dude.
Okay, Stan, only you know what they say about the dude.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Dead men don't talk.
As fire chief, I'm well aware of your record in the police department, Sergeant. You know how to conduct a raid. You can capture this dude Martin and see that he talks.
We'll make the raid, Chief Cody, but it's bound to fail. For me, because I won't learn who the big shot is behind this. For you, because we still won't know if Stan here is telling the truth about your smoke eater, Private Mushnosky.
Oh, but, Sergeant, that just doesn't make sense.
Yes, it does, Tim. You see, this dude Martin is one man who can't be taken alive.
Oh, nuts. If you figure out how to grab him.
No, the Flatfoot's right, Mush. The dude's crazy on one subject. He's scared of being locked up. He'd kill himself first.
That's why the police have never caught him, Chief Cody. He's made any number of miraculous escapes, risking his life.
I go along with Mushnosky just the same, Sergeant. You plan the raid so there's no avenue of escape, that's all.
We'll see. Give out, Stan.
Well, you know the garage in the corner of Maple Street?
Yeah, old 5-story building. That the plant where your counterfeiter friends have set up?
People who try to bump me off ain't exactly my friends, McGurk. But they print the phony dough on the second floor. Dude Martin has his office on the top floor, up under the roof.
I see. For the benefit of you firefighters, the problem is now how to close in on the gang working in the plant and not scare off the dude as we do it.
Could I talk with you a minute, Sergeant, privately?
Why not, Chief Cody? We'll take a little walk. Come on.
Collins, I guess I ought to thank you as well as Mush for saving my life.
Now, Chief Cody, let's have it. You got an idea?
Yes, I have, Sergeant. But first, do you still think this fine young fellow in my rescue company is mixed up with these crooks?
Frankly, Chief, I don't know. It was Mushnosky and Collins who found those printing plates next to the dock here.
I know, McGurk, but if you capture this dude Martin, I've got every faith that will clear Martin.
Look, Chief, we've cooperated all the way on this case. Your department tumbled onto the printing plates. Your rescue boys revived that racketeer. Now, if you've got an idea for this...
I have, Sergeant. And I'm glad to hear you say what you just did. Because my idea will combine our two departments.
Wouldn't be the first time fire and police have worked together, Chief Cody. Let's have it.
Well, it might cover up your raid on the plant itself. That is, distract this dude Martin's attention so that he wouldn't be scared away before you could grab him. Now, my plan would have to go like clockwork, and both departments would have to work as a team.
As Chief Cody explains his plan, Sergeant McGurk looks more and more pleased. A few minutes later, the two officials separate to return to their respective headquarters. But exactly 1 hour later, Chief Cody and rookie fireman Tim Collins have parked the chief's car a block away and are moving up on the garage where the counterfeiting plant is hidden, always staying in the shadow of protecting walls.
Chief Cody, the street's deserted. I don't see a soul.
That's the way we want it, Tim. But don't worry. Sergeant McGurk's men are planted all around this building by now.
Well, they sure work quietly. You know, Chief, I didn't see any lights on the second floor when we parked the car.
Well, of course not, son. It's blacked out. Those counterfeiters wouldn't want any signs of activity.
We're sure they're there.
If Mush's cousin told the police the truth, Tim, that gang is working in there this minute. But you did notice that light from the window on the top floor, didn't you?
Oh, yes, sir. That's Dude Martin's office, huh?
Right. Now, the trick is to burst in on the second floor without scaring their leader off.
Well, let's hope your plan works, Chief. That dude must be a weird character, if you ask me.
I've got an idea we're going to meet him pretty soon, Tim. That is, if nothing goes wrong.
Oh, it won't. Listen to that.
Yeah.
Well, look, there's the engine company right on the button.
Yeah.
Sure sounds like the real thing. Makes me want to join them.
Look at them get those lines out.
Yes,
That's
sir.
speed, son. When they get that pumper going full blast and the ladders start going up, there'll be racket enough for us to move in.
Oh, hold it, Chief. Hold it. Someone's coming.
Who's there?
Me, Chief Cody. Private Mushnowski reporting.
I thought you were with Sergeant McGurk, Mush.
Yeah, the way he's keeping an eye on me, I'm not out from under suspicion yet. But we're ready to roll now, Chief.
Quickly, the three men pass the shadowy figures of the police moving in on the garage and enter it from the side. Shortly, they join McGurk and two plainclothesmen in the dark of the top floor outside the gangster's office.
Thought you'd never get here, Chief Cody. Wanted you to be in at the kill. This was your plan.
You think it's working out okay, Sergeant?
Yeah, I have a man on the roof opposite. He reported Dude Martin looked out, checked on the fire trucks when they arrived, then went back to his desk.
We saw your men moving in on the second floor, Sergeant. They must be cleaning up that gang by now.
Thanks to the excitement at your phony fire, the dude's still here, Chief.
Well, what's next, Sergeant?
I'm going to open that door, but fast. You and your pal Mush stay in back of me here. Okay, let's go. Just as they're quiet, dude. You live longer.
Well, look who's here, my old friend.
Watch out, he's got a gun in that desk drawer.
No, you don't, dude. Better drop that.
Your men play rough, Sergeant.
Thanks, Tim. That was fast work.
You nearly broke my wrist, McGurk. What is this? You calling in the fire department to do your work for you?
This is a bit of teamwork, dude. If Chief Cody here hadn't arranged a phony fire down there while we raided your plant.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, by now they rounded up. And this time, dude, we've got you, too.
Looks that way, doesn't it? And congratulations on your part in this, Chief Cody.
All I want is an answer to a question, dude. Is this man a member of your gang?
No, Chief, he's hardly the type I use.
You hear that, Sergeant? As far as I'm concerned, Mushnowski, your record is clear.
Thanks, Chief.
Mushnowski. That name is familiar.
It ought to be. His cousin Stanislaus was a runner of yours. You tried to kill him tonight, but the rescue company revived him, dude. He didn't drown.
Well, I seem to be having remarkably bad luck tonight.
Now, all I want is the name of the big shot behind this.
I doubt if he'd have given me this job, Sergeant McGurk, if he thought I'd squeal.
It's pretty well known, dude, that you do most anything to escape being locked up.
A strange quirk, isn't it, gentlemen? The one thing in the world I'm afraid of. Yes, I admit it. It's the one thing, the one threat that would make me break down and talk.
Well, you're next door to it, my friend, so start talking.
That I can't do either, Sergeant. So it looks like there's only one way out. The window!
Look out! He's gonna jump!
Threw himself right through the window. Brother.
Oh, gee. Too bad we couldn't stop him. What a way to die. 5 stories down to the ground.
I told you he couldn't be taken alive. Confound that window. We'll never get the name of the big shot now. I told you I'd fail, Chief.
Fail? Why don't you go downstairs and talk with him, Sergeant?
Are you crazy, Chief? He's dead.
Not if the hook and ladder boys were under that window with a life net, the way I told them to be.
You mean you...
Those were my orders, McGurk. You said this racketeer wouldn't let himself be taken alive. Well, I figured the only escape from a 5th floor office would be through a window.
Well, I'll be... Fire department, my hat's off to you. That's what I call covering all exits. See you later. I still got that date with Dude Martin.
Oh, so that's why you were counting on the hook and ladder company.
I'm in the clear. I only hope they won't be too tough on my cousin.
And he gave the police the information they needed. That ought to help. What are you two so excited about?
Well, for Pete's sake, the way this just ended, Chief. How'd you think of having them stand by with a life net under that window?
Think? When you're in the department as long as I've been, a thing like that comes like second nature. Now, you two go along home now.
No, we're off duty now?
Pick up your schedule with the rescue company tomorrow. Get yourself a good 8-hour sleep, Tim, and wrap yourself around a stack of Mother Collins's buckwheat cakes when you get up, huh? How's that sound?
Oh, swell. Best orders I ever heard, Chief Cody. So long.
But the young rookie fireman, Tim Collins, wouldn't be looking forward to that breakfast with his family if he knew what was to follow. In a way, it was his younger brother, Jimmy, who started it, but, well, say, I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, if you'd share the danger and excitement of fire and explosion, listen to the next exciting episode of The Firefighters. Chief Bob Cody will be back in a minute to tell you, boys and girls, how you can help the firefighters in your town. But right now, here's something you ought to hear. Now, Chief Bob Cody with a special notice for the Firefighters Brigade. Chief Cody.
Hello, boys and girls. This is Chief Cody with an important word about a very common cause of fire. The cause? Overloading electrical lines in your home. In plain talk, that means trying to run too many lights or electric gadgets off the same light socket. Like, for instance, a toaster, an overhead light, an electric heater, all on one plug. Now, that's plain dangerous, because it overheats the wires leading to that plug and endangers the whole house. Well, that's all for now, but I'll be back again soon. So long.
Fire Chief Cody and the young rookie fireman, Tim Collins, will be back on the same station the next time you hear...
That's it. Let's roll!
Let's go! Firefighters!
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide, special detail. There are rumors of an impending war between juvenile gangs in your city. Reportedly, members of both gangs are well supplied with homemade weapons. You don't know when the fighting will break out. You don't know where. Your job? Stop it.
Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette, now king-size.
See the difference, taste the difference, smoke the difference. And in Fatima, the difference is quality.
See the difference. Fatimas are 21% longer.
Taste the difference. Enjoy Fatima's extra mildness. Much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Smoke the difference. Get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
So why wait? Switch to Fatima today. Each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, October 14th. It was cloudy in Los Angeles. We were working a special detail out of Homicide Division. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. It was 1:18 p.m. when I got to 2015 East 1st Street, the second floor. Big Juvenile Division.
Joe?
Hi. What'd you find out?
Nothing yet. Gardner had to go next door. He'll be back in a minute. Give us a rundown on the thing.
Friday? Ed?
Hi, Gardner.
Hi, how you doing?
Good to see you. How are things going downtown?
Oh, not bad. A little slow. Hear you got problems.
Lots of them. Captain brief you on any of it?
No, he told us to check with you. You'd fill us in. Said maybe you could use some help.
All we can get. We're sitting on top of a bomb out here. We don't know when it's going to go off.
What's the pitch, Gardner?
Juvenile gangs, 5 of them this time. The way we get it, they're ready for trouble, all of them.
High school kids?
Most of them. Some of them are in junior high.
Well, how come 5 gangs? What are they planning, a free-for-all?
It's a long story. They've been building up to this thing for months, all East Side kids. We hear it's supposed to be an open war.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a list of the different gangs involved.
Thanks.
You can see there, same crowds we've been riding herd on for the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. We've got the Purple Heart Gang, the Blue Devils, the Apaches, Happy Valley, Rose Hill.
Here's the breakdown on each one of them. Hard to get exact figures, but we think it's fairly accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Purple Heart Gang, 26 members. Leader Harold Fry, age 17. Blue Devils, 18 members. Leaders Jack Holland, age 17, and Bertram Willis, 16. The Apaches, 22 members. Leader Robert Lawson, 17. They're supposed to be the strongest bunch.
Well.
Happy Valley Gang, 20 members. Leaders Roy Martin, 16, and Joseph Gomez, 16. Rose Hill Gang, 16 members. Leader Thomas Resnick, 18.
Yeah. Well, what's behind it, Gardner? I mean, the gang war that they're supposed to be planning.
A lot of factors enter into it, I guess. It's my own idea. The Apache gang's doing most of the promoting.
What's the object, anyway?
The usual big shot ideas some high school kids get. The Apaches figure they're going to run the whole East Side. They've already scared the Happy Valley Gang and the Blue Devils into joining up with it.
Well, how'd they manage that?
I'd like to find out myself.
Well, how about the other 2 crowds there, Rose Hill and the Purple Heart Bunch?
The story I get is they won't come in with the Apaches. That's supposed to be the reason for the war. Either they join up with the Apaches or they fight them. That's the warning they got.
Really playing it big time, huh?
All the way. 16, 17-year-olds. They got gang lieutenants. They got their own cars, their own hideouts. Some of them even have their girlfriends running with them. Same age. None of them over 17.
Where'd you get your information, Bill?
Half a dozen kids. Most of them from the Blue Devils and the Happy Valley Gang. They were mixed up in a couple of after-school fights in Hollenbeck Park. The stories they gave us are enough to curl your hair.
Yeah, how do you mean?
About the big war they're going to have. One of the girls we picked up gave us most of it. 15-year-old. Says her boyfriend's one of the big shots with the Blue Devil.
What'd she have to say?
Talked about it like it was some kind of a game they were playing.
Yeah.
Said the Rose Hill and the Purple Heart gangs were teaming up so they could stand up against the other 3. They've been getting ready for the war for 6 weeks. They're really organized.
I don't get it. Who's doing the organizing? Who's promoting it?
I got an idea about that. I'll get to it in a minute. Take a look at these over here.
Yeah.
Samples of the different weapons the gangs are getting together for the big fight.
Crazy kids.
Brass knuckles. Homemade saps, all kinds.
Well, what's this here, Gardner?
Have a look. Homemade stiletto. Good 6-inch blade. Kids are supposed to have dozens of them. Another one here. Look at this. Ice pick. Anything you can think of, you name it, we got it.
It's going to be wholesale murder if we can't find a way to stop it.
You been able to figure what the real trouble is, Bill?
I got an idea, yeah. You asked about the gangs teaming up a minute ago.
Yeah.
We figure we got a young Hitler on our hands. A kid by the name of Robert Lawson. He's supposed to be the ringleader of the Apache gang. Moved in about a year ago from the Middle West.
How much you know about him?
Wrote a letter to the city he originally came from. Nothing but trouble back there. Bad juvenile record. We've talked to the boy a couple of times. His parents, too. Didn't do much good. Never had enough to file a petition on him and bring him to the attention of the juvenile court. We know he's responsible for a lot of the trouble we got, but he always has some other kid do it for him. Never does it himself.
You think he's responsible for working up the gang war ideas, eh?
We figure he's our biggest problem. We've tried everything to reach the Lawson kid and settle him down. Checked with the teachers at his school, the principal, vice principal. They can't handle him. They figure on expelling him if he doesn't straighten out.
How about the other youngsters in these gangs? I mean, besides this Lawson boy here.
We've got notifications out for them and their parents. They're supposed to be in here tomorrow night, 7:30. Maybe we can break Lawson's hold on these kids.
Sure got me. What's the matter with this Lawson boy's parents? Don't they know what's going on? Can't they control him?
We tried to talk to the parents. They think we're wrong. They're proud of the kid. He's got a high IQ. They think he's a natural-born leader.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The mother says people just don't understand the boy.
Or maybe you should have told them.
Huh?
San Quentin's full of people we don't understand. The following night, Wednesday, October 15th, the members and ringleaders of the various juvenile gangs, along with their parents, showed up at Hollenbeck Juvenile Division as requested. In questioning each of the youngsters, we definitely confirmed the reports we had of the impending gang war. The interviews also revealed that if and when the fighting did start, it would be more serious than we at first figured. For one thing, There were more youngsters involved than we thought. The gangs had been recruiting new members by the dozen in preparation for the street fights. For another thing, we found out the teenagers weren't carrying around 8-inch knives and brass knuckles just for show. If fighting started, they were ready and willing to use them. We weren't sure how much we could count on it, but after interviewing the parents and advising them how serious the situation was, they promised their full cooperation. Most of them agreed they'd maintain strict check on their youngsters and keep them out of all neighborhood gang activities. Some of the parents took a resentful attitude. They insisted the gangs were harmless. They accused us of picking on the youngsters. A few of the parents didn't even show up at the meeting. Among these were the parents of 17-year-old Robert Lawson, the boy who seemed to be promoting most of the trouble. The following morning, my partner Ed Jacobs and I drove out to his home and we talked with his mother. She was friendly but not too cooperative.
I don't know why you say that, Sergeant. I appreciate you worrying about my boy, but I'm sure it's not as bad as you think.
I don't mean to contradict you, Mrs. Lawson, but I'm afraid it is a lot worse than you think.
It's what the other officers said, too, but you really don't have any proof, do you? I mean, if you idle rumors, you certainly can't accuse Robert on that basis.
We're not accusing Robert of anything, ma'am. It's not the point. What we're trying to do is to head off the trouble before it starts.
You were living in the Middle West before you came to Los Angeles, that right, ma'am?
Yes, that's right, Nebraska.
Well, wasn't your boy in some kind of trouble back there?
Yes, but it didn't amount to anything. Could have been avoided so easily. They just didn't understand Robert. That was the whole trouble.
Is he an only child, ma'am?
Yes, just Robert. But he's not spoiled. I know it's a great temptation with an only child, but we didn't spoil him. Robert just isn't like that.
Uh-huh. You allow him quite a bit of freedom, do you, ma'am? I mean, does he go out at night very often?
Well, he is 17 years old, going on 18. Yes, my husband and I allow him to go out as often as he likes, as long as he keeps up with his studies. Robert's always done very well. Always tops in his class.
Do you know where he spends his time when he goes out at night?
He's usually down at the gym or at the library.
You know that for a fact, do you?
I trust Robert, if that's what you mean. If he tells me that's where he's going, I believe him. The mother can't believe her own son. Who can she believe?
How about the company your boy keeps? You know any of his friends, Mrs. Lawson?
Few, yes. There's the Miller boy and Jack Holland. They seem to be fine boys.
Miller and Holland?
Yes. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with them.
Well, there is, ma'am.
What?
Both of them have juvenile records. Both of them belong to your son's gang.
Really, Sergeant, how can you say that? It isn't fair. Wouldn't it be better to try and understand these boys instead of picking on them, persecuting them?
I don't know how we're going to make you understand, Mrs. Lawson. We're not picking on them. We're not persecuting them. We know there's a gang problem. We know your boy's one of those at the bottom of it. If something isn't done, there's going to be trouble. If we're going to stop it before it begins, we're going to have your help.
I'm perfectly willing to cooperate, you know that. That must be Robert now. Excuse me. Robert? Bob, is that you?
Yeah?
Would you come in here a minute, Bob? We're in the living room.
Yeah? What do you want?
These are police officers, Bobby. This is Sergeant Friday. Sergeant Jacobs, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you?
How do you do?
Hi. How about something to eat? Haven't you got anything ready?
I wasn't expecting you, Bob. Won't take me a minute, though. You sit down there. I'll go out and get a snack together for you. Can I fix you a sandwich, officers? A cup of coffee?
No, thank you.
No,
thanks very much.
Won't be a minute, Bob. We were just talking about you when you came in.
What's it about, Sergeant? You want to see me, or do you just want to talk to my mother?
As long as you're here, we'd like to talk to both of you, Bob.
I got to take off pretty fast. Just getting home to get something to eat. What's it about?
It's about Geronimo. That's the gang's code word for the war you're setting up, isn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Your gang, Bob, the Apaches. We talked to half a dozen of them last night down at the Juvenile Division.
Is that right?
Now, look, son, we've got the names of everybody in your gang. We know the whole setup. You go ahead with your idea, and you're going to buy a lot of trouble.
A couple of cops were here last week. They said the same thing. I don't know any more about it now than I did then. Honest. What's the pitch anyway?
You know what the pitch is, youngster.
I don't, honest. You're trying to say I'm in a gang, is that it?
You're in it up to your neck, son. Now, why don't you come off it? We've got you pegged and everybody that runs with you. That includes the girlfriends you got in the gang. You're not fooling anybody.
You must be a little crazy. I'm not in any gang. I never even heard of one around here.
Now, you listen to me, boy. You can take this as a warning or a piece of advice, either way. You and your friends keep on playing punk gangsters, and we're going to lean on you. You understand?
What is this? Trying to scare me?
If it'll make you change your mind, yeah. If this street war comes off, there's going to be big trouble. What do you think's going to happen when 200 kids tangle in a fight with knives and brass knuckles? Now, use your head.
Here you are, Bob. Nice milk, nice bowl of hot soup. Bacon and tomato sandwiches.
You always make the soup too hot.
Oh, I didn't mean to. Let it cool off for a minute, then. Bob has to eat and hurry along upstairs. Is there anything else you wanted to talk to him about?
No, I think you've heard everything we have to say. We should think it over, Mrs. Lawson. You too, Bob.
Nothing to think over. They're trying to say I'm in a gang. They think I'm the leader.
You told them, didn't you, son?
Sure. They don't believe me.
I wish I could make you understand, Sergeant. He's not a gang leader. Robert's telling the truth.
Afraid he isn't, ma'am.
Well, he is. I know he is. I mean, after all, he's my son. I'm in a position to know him better than you do.
Yes, ma'am.
If he was lying, I'd know it. I wish I could make you understand. Mother's the only one who really knows her boy. I know Robert's telling the truth. Aren't you, Robert? Robert?
Huh?
That's so, isn't it? You're telling the truth, aren't you?
Sure. How about some more soup?
Before we left the house, we tried again to talk to Robert Lawson and his mother, but it was no use. She believed every word he said, and he apparently refused to believe the possible consequences of the war he was planning for his gang of juveniles. We drove downtown and had an interview with the boy's father at his work. He was even less cooperative. He took on a belligerent attitude, accused us of persecuting his son, and ordered us out of the office. Along with Sergeant Bill Gardner and Frank Kerber, we spent the rest of the afternoon and most of the following day checking with parents of youngsters who had been recently recruited into one of the various East Side gangs. Most of them were cooperative. Late that afternoon, Bill Gardner, Ed, and myself met with Captain Stein back at Hollenbeck Juvenile.
Strict curfew all over the area. We can start tonight.
What do you figure, just on the weekends?
Every night, Sunday to Sunday. I'll get some more men in to help out. Every youngster out in the street after 10 o'clock gets stopped.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them caught with knives, saps, brass knuckles, or anything like them, they're going to be pulled in and filed on. No exceptions. Be a lot safer in custody than mixing in the gang fight.
Well, it ought to help. Might teach some of the parents a lesson anyway.
Yeah. Excuse me. Juvenile Division, Stein. Where was that? When? Yeah, right away. Let's hustle at Evergreen Avenue out near the cemetery.
Yeah, what is it?
Curfew was a good idea. We got it too late.
Huh?
Gang war, it's already started.
Before we left the office, we had communications notify all J cars on the special detail to proceed at once to the scene of the Major 415 call. 10 cars were ordered to cruise the area surrounding the actual scene of the fight and to pick up any and all members of the juvenile gangs who showed any evidence of having been in the fight or had in their possession any deadly weapon. Captain Stein, Bill Gardner, Ed, and myself left the office on a Code 3 and drove out to the scene of the gang fight. When we got there, all the J cars and 3 radio crews had the area blocked off. An ambulance crew was treating more than a dozen youngsters who had been injured during the fight. One of the youngsters had a lacerated eye. He'd been blinded. Most of the other victims would carry scars for the rest of their lives. The juveniles who'd taken part in the battle and who'd been lucky enough to escape without serious injury were being loaded into the J cars and the radio cars. They were to be removed to juvenile headquarters at 1335 Georgia Street for further investigation. Together with Bill Gardner and Frank Kerber, Ed and I began covering the area, collecting dozens of homemade weapons used in the gang fight. They'd be turned over to Pete Brown, Hollenbeck Juvenile, to be booked as evidence.
Joe?
Yeah, Ed.
Come here a minute. Over here.
Yeah.
Have a look. Piece of chain, bloodstains on it.
Lousy. How vicious can it get?
Come on. All right.
Across the street there, the car in the driveway.
Yeah.
Help him. He's hurt. Somebody help him, Bobby.
What's the trouble?
Bobby, he was in the fight. One of the gang, they stabbed him. He's in the car.
Come on.
What is it, Joe?
Take a look.
The Lawson boy, huh?
Yeah, knife in his chest.
Want me to get the doctor?
Yeah, call the coroner, too.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Now king size.
See the difference. Taste the difference. Smoke the difference. And in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, you get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has. That's why week in, week out, year after year, More smokers are switching to Fatimas.
1950. Fatima sales higher than ever before in Fatima history.
1951, another record year. Fatima sales up and up. Why, in 1 month alone, Fatima sales up 110% coast to coast.
Friends, in the first months of 1952, to show our confidence in Fatima, we are making a special money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before April 1st, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Thursday, October 16th, 5:35 p.m. After the discovery of Robert Lawson's body in the car parked in the driveway adjoining the cemetery grounds, Ed brought the doctor over from the ambulance. The 17-year-old Lawson boy was pronounced dead. The doctor made out the prescribed form and marked it DOA. While we waited for the crime lab crew and the coroner to get there, Ed and I questioned the girl who'd led us to the body. She identified herself as Ann Porter, age 16. She told us she was Bob Lawson's girlfriend. She readily admitted accompanying him to the scene of the gang fight that afternoon.
I knew what it was going to be like. I knew right then. I came closer. Bob told the kids to get ready. They were a little ways from us when they stopped. The other gang, the Purple Hearts.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's a kid by the name of Jumpy. He's the leader. He stepped out in front of them and called to Bob. Called him a bad name, said bad things.
This boy you called Jumpy, you know his real name, Ann?
No, Jumpy's only his nickname. I know him when I see him, though. I can point him out.
Well, what happened after he called Bob?
I don't know.
What?
I don't know. I'm not sure. Everything seemed to happen at once. Bob swore at me, pushed me back, told me to get out of the way. Then he walked up to this kid, Jumpy, right in front of their whole gang. I screamed at Bob. I screamed at him not to.
Why'd you scream? What'd you do?
He had a chain under his coat. It was kind of a short whip-like. Bob had it doubled up.
Yeah.
When he went up to Jumpy, Bob had a cigarette in his mouth. He told Jumpy to light it for him. It's supposed to mean he's chicken if he does it. Jumpy laughed at him. Bob took out the chain, hit him across the face with it. Hit him with all his might. It knocked Jumpy down. He was laying on the sidewalk. His face was cut bad. Bob had the chain, kept hitting him with it. And somebody gave a yell, and both the gangs started fighting.
Were you close to Bob Lawson most of the time?
No, not first. There was a lot of yelling and kicking and fighting going on. I ran around and was looking for him. Finally saw Bob. I'm not sure it happened so fast.
What happened then?
I'm not sure. I thought I saw Jumpy pull a knife on Bob. Long and thin, maybe an ice pick.
Yeah.
Bobby was still hitting with the chain. It looked like Jumpy hit Bob in the chest with something right over the heart. Bobby stopped. Jumpy did it again. Bobby got white. He looked sick. He turned around and started to run.
Well, what happened then?
Bobby kept running. I knew he was hurt. I went after him. I saw him fall, but he got up. He kept running. Then one of the other gang grabbed me. They hit me.
It's all right. We understand.
I didn't find Bob until the fight was over. I heard the cops' cars coming, sirens, coming around from everywhere. I felt sick. I finally found Bob, though. He was laying in the back seat of the car, just laying there.
And that's when you called out?
Yes. I guess I knew it. As soon as I looked at him, dead white as a sheet. It ain't easy. Not when you find somebody dead, not somebody you love.
All right, youngster. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
You're lying. You know that. It won't be all right.
Take it easy, Ann.
I loved Bob. Didn't you know that? When he graduated, the first thing we were going to get married. As soon as he got out of school, we'd be married. We'd be married.
Ann? Ann?
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 16. Why?
Nothing. It happens to practically everybody.
What?
People seem to make a lot of mistakes when they're 16. 6:30 p.m. The crime lab crew arrived, took pictures of the entire scene along with all physical evidence, and dusted the murder weapon, an 8-inch knife, for fingerprints. The coroner arrived, and after we'd completed our investigation, he removed the body to the county morgue. Along with a policewoman, we took Robert Lawson's girlfriend, 16-year-old Ann Porter, down to Georgia Street Juvenile Division to the assembly room. There, a special show-up was held of all the boys involved in the afternoon's fight. The Porter girl identified a 17-year-old by the name of Warren Stone, nicknamed Jumpy, as the boy who'd stabbed Robert Lawson to death. At least a dozen other subjects in the case identified the boy by his nickname, Jumpy. 3 members of either gang involved in the fight declared in sworn statements that Warren Stone was the boy who'd attacked the Lawson boy with a homemade knife. Statements were taken from all concerned, and the ringleaders of the gangs were detained. The other subjects were released to their parents' custody after being notified that they would be filed on and a hearing held in juvenile court. Ann Porter was returned home by a policewoman. 7:55 p.m., Ed Jacobs and I took the subject, Warren Stone, to the captain's office where we tried to question him about the murder. He refused to say anything.
I told you the truth. I told you the whole story. I don't have to tell you again.
We're pretty sure you didn't tell us the truth, Warren. We know you tangled with Bob Lawson in that fight this afternoon.
No, I didn't.
We've got statements from a dozen kids, son. They say Lawson had a piece of chain. He kept slugging you with it. They say you pulled a knife and stabbed him.
How do they know? A lot of kids there had knives. Anybody could have stabbed it. Why are you picking on me?
It was your knife. It was your knife that killed him. Your initials on it.
I lost the knife in the fight. Somebody could have picked it up, used it.
No, that won't do, youngster. The handle of the knife's been processed. Your fingerprints are all over it.
How about it, son?
Warren? Come on now. What do you got to say?
Nothing. I killed him.
8:40 p.m. Warren Stone was booked in at Georgia Street Jail on suspicion of 187 PC, murder. Ed and I got in the car and drove out to the home of the murder victim to notify his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Robert Lawson. Mr. Lawson wasn't home from work yet. We broke the news of her son's death to Mrs. Lawson as gently as we could. She became hysterical, and we called the family doctor, who gave her sedatives. Later, when she recovered herself a bit, she asked for the full story. We told her.
How could it happen? Bobby, how could it happen?
Sorry, ma'am. There's not much we can say. We tried everything we could to stop it.
But you didn't stop it. You let them kill Bobby. You let them kill him.
No, ma'am. We tried to warn him. We tried to warn all of them. We're sorry.
You're not sorry. You didn't try. Bob's dead. Everything I had. He's 17 years old and he's dead. I can thank you for that. My only baby.
We're sorry you feel that way, Mrs. Lawson.
Why shouldn't I feel that way? You call yourselves policemen. That boy who killed Bobby, you should have had him in jail in the first place. Young killer. Running around loose, you're as guilty as he is.
I'm not defending him, ma'am, but he wasn't a young killer. Didn't even have a juvenile record.
I don't care anything about records. He's a killer. He took a knife and he killed Bob, and you let him do it. You let him.
I think we better be going in.
Yeah.
You or your husband will have to identify the body, and tomorrow morning will be all right, the county morgue.
Dear God.
You'll have to be at the coroner's inquest, too. You'll be notified about the time and the date.
I hope you have to live with this. I hope you live with it like I have to live with it. I hope it drives you crazy.
I know how you feel, ma'am, but you're wrong. I think you'll realize that.
They murdered Bob. You let them kill him. I'll always remember that.
All right. And you remember something else. The last time we came here to your house, we tried to make you understand.
You didn't know Bobby. You didn't understand him. I was the only one. I always knew what he was thinking, what he wanted, what he was going to do. I was the only one.
No, ma'am, there was somebody else.
What?
The boy who killed him.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On November 7th, a hearing was held in Juvenile Court, Department 38, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that hearing.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, just as a hobby, I've been collecting early jazz records, blues and two-beat music like Leon Bix Beiderbecke used to play, and, of course, just about everything Benny Goodman has done. I've always tried to build my collection on quality. Now, in my opinion, that's the only rule to follow in choosing a king-size cigarette. Choose for quality. Believe me, I know that's what you'll find in Fatima. I know because I smoke them. If you haven't, here's what I'd like you to do. Get a pack tomorrow and compare them. When you see the difference, taste the difference, and then smoke that difference, I'm convinced that you'll switch to Fatima. Because in Fatima, the difference is quality. Each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality. Next time, buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
17-year-old Warren Ernest Stone was filed on alleging violation of 187 PC, murder. The rest of the juvenile gang ringleaders were filed on alleging 242 PC, battery. They were all made wards of the juvenile court and placed in detention homes under the supervision of the State Youth Authority. They are still confined in state institutions for juveniles. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Charles Smith, and Eddie Firestone. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles. Next, it's David Harding and Counter Spy on NBC.
I get 10 a day and expenses from a detective bureau run by a guy named Anthony J. Lyon. They call me the Lion's Eye.
With Jack Webb as Jeff Regan, the Lion's Eye, stand by for hard-boiled action and mystery and thrilling adventure in tonight's story of the man who fought back.
There's a street crammed in between Wilton and Van Ness in Hollywood called Taft Avenue. It's a couple of blocks long, and it only got there because the city planners had a few tons of cement left over from the Coliseum. On the corner, there's a gray building poking its way up through a crack in the pavement. That's where I live. Apartment K. 2 rooms with a connecting door to a broom closet. Oh, the place isn't much. A couple of chairs, and a bed that comes out of the wall, and a mattress that could pass itself off as a relief map of the High Sierras. Well, that's where I was the other night around 11, trying to catch some sleep. That's when my phone began making an impression. Turned out to be the Lion.
Hey, Regan, I'm glad I found you home. Are you alone?
What's the matter? Did you lose your voice?
Just a precaution. I got a hold of a good thing, and I don't want to lose it by indiscreet talk.
Well, then write me a letter.
We've just been hired. You start tonight.
It'll keep till morning.
Her name's Alice Lafarge. She can meet you in a bar called the Princess across the street from Pershing Square. Get going.
What's your trouble?
She'll tell you all about it when you get there.
Can't you tell me?
I haven't got the time right now, but there's nothing to it. I'd handle it myself if I didn't have a big deal on.
Flirting with widows in Pasadena, huh?
So I got a social engagement. It helps our business. Pays to be seen in high society.
And besides, the liquor's good.
You just get over to see the Lafarge dame. And give me a ring in the morning and let me know how you make out.
All right, lover.
Hey, Regan.
Huh?
What should I take to my Pasadena girlfriend? Flowers or candy?
You better take both. You're going to need all the help you can get. I threw on some clothes and I headed for town. My car found a parking lot off Olive, and I cut through Pershing Square to make it over to Hill. It was after midnight. A sailor was chasing a bow-legged Marine over the grass. He brought him down on about the 40-yard line. The Princess Bar showed up near the corner of 6th, a little place holding up 6 stories of granite. I went inside. A mustache was trying real hard on a piano. 200 pounds of bartender was moving a wet rag over the bar in slow motion. A girl was sitting on the far stool on a black purse with the initials ALF. Alice Lafarge. If you looked real hard, you could find her eyes. I gave up on her lips. I lowered myself onto the stool next to her. She looked tired, like a chorus girl on a Sunday morning.
Yes?
I'm Regan, international detective.
How do I know?
You will when you get the bill.
You're late, Mr. Regan.
Well, I didn't pick up any traffic tickets, if that's what you wanted.
Well, it doesn't matter. We have a few minutes yet.
What are we waiting for?
12:30. Can I buy you a drink, Mr. Regan?
You're calling it.
Bartender?
What'll it be, miss?
I'm not drinking. Serve the gentleman.
Scotch?
Bourbon and water.
Got some pretty tasty scotch, buddy.
Bourbon.
Just trying. I get a commission on the scotch.
All right, lady, now let's have it.
You live far from here, Mr. Regan?
About 20 minutes.
Well, you better run home and throw a change of clothes into a suitcase.
Out-of-town job?
No, but you'll need a change. Bring along a deck of cards and a thick book.
Anything else?
Call off any dates you may have. You're going to be out of circulation for the weekend. Here's an address at the hotel on North Figueroa. Get there as soon as you can.
You still haven't said anything. What's the job?
You'll find out when you get there.
I'll get tired of waiting. Come on, lady, let's open it up.
Hey, buddy, scotch. Hey, you leaving us, miss? Next one's free.
Thanks, anyway.
Okay.
I'll look beat at you and take that scotch with you.
Okay. Drink it myself. I still get the commission.
All right, now come on, sis. Let's have the rest of it.
I'm sorry, Mr. Regan. That's all I can tell you now. Just be at that address as soon as you can.
As she slid off the stool and moved for the front door, I caught a view of her in the mirror. There was nothing there to make a guy want an encore. Sandy hair, short, thin body that you could have slipped into a mailbox. Well, she threw the door shut behind her. A couple of seconds ticked by, and I moved out after her. I made the street just in time to see her climb into a cab and start up 6th. That's when I spotted the red Austin with an Illinois license. With a Glen plaid sleeve sticking out of the left side, and that's all I got of the driver, except that he was doing a real bad tag job on the Lafarge girl. The North Figueroa address Alice Lafarge gave me turned out to be the Gladstone Hotel. A 2-layer pile of wood so old that the termites were getting indigested. A short guy with a shiny head was catching up on his reading in the lobby. He put down the seat catalog long enough to tell me that apartment 3B was upstairs in the back. A couple of knocks on the door, and Alice let me in. Sitting in the corner was a bush of gray hair and a white face. Turned out to be a man with a worried look, like an alligator in a handbag factory.
Shut the door, Alice.
Yes, Dad.
Thanks for coming, Regan.
I'll let you know later if you're welcome.
Take his things, Alice.
No, I'm going to hang on to him for a while.
Suit yourself, but your coat will get heavy in a few hours.
What says I'm going to stay that long?
Me? That's what you're hired for.
What else?
Well, lots of time to get to that. Let's get to know each other first.
You got a name?
I'm Bill Lafarge. Sort of fancy, but I like it.
Give me some more.
Not much more. Just an old joker with nothing left but a few years and a regular gun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Regan, this isn't my real address. I just moved here.
Yeah, the rent's low.
That's not it. Bill Lafarge can handle more.
All right, you can skip the bank statement, mister.
Will you please try to be civil, Mr. Regan?
That's not what you hired me for.
It's okay, Alice. Can't say I blame him.
All right, then. Let's throw it in gear, huh?
Not much to your job, Regan. Just spend a weekend with me.
I've had better offers.
Yeah, I did too in my time. Well, it's the easy part of it.
You got something hard?
You stay awake the next 48 hours and keep looking at me.
Who's after you?
Nobody.
I figure different.
You could be wrong.
Shades down, lights out, red Austin on a tag job.
What do you mean?
Plaid suit moved out after you when you left the Princess.
You sure you was following Alice?
Like you said, I could be wrong.
Get one thing straight, Regan. I never hire anybody to protect me. Bill Lafarge handles things like that himself. You're here as a witness.
What for?
Just in case somebody wants some testifying as to how I spent this weekend.
All right.
Now throw off your coat. Let's play a little cards.
Why not?
Alice, open the window. It's getting a little hot in here.
All right, Dad.
Big, gin money?
You're dealing.
high do you want to play? 2 bits if you...
Shots came flying in from the alley and didn't stop until they caught Alice LaFarge. They blew her back into the room, and she did a full turn like a ballet dancer showing off. By the time her father and I got to her, it was all over. The old man straightened up and began mumbling something about Red Austin. I stepped for the phone. I put in a call to Sanducci at Homicide. He took down the story and promised to send out some company. And then I cradled the phone. That's when I knew I was alone with the girl. Old man LaFarge had hot-footed it out of the building like a super chief on a holiday weekend. Well, the boys from Homicide showed in a couple of minutes, and they had a few questions. I gave them what I had, and Sanducci tabled the rest until the next day. So I went home to relax. You know, the Lion could have made a good detective. He always finds me.
Regan, I'm not paying you to sit at home. Get your coat on and explain this.
What?
This newspaper story. There's a big lie in here about the LaFarge dame getting killed. Now, I know you wouldn't allow that to happen to one of our clients.
It was real hard, but I managed.
I give you a simple little job and you turn it into a murder. You getting a commission from Forest Lawn?
You got your hands full, too.
What do you mean?
Sanducci will be visiting you with a pocket full of questions.
I don't know nothing about a shooting. I was out in Pasadena all night playing a guitar, and I got a sore finger to prove it.
Now, you listen to me, Big Shot. You better start sniffing around and turn up a Red Austin with a plaid suit behind the wheel.
What else?
Get some information on Bill LaFarge, the girl's father.
Hey, what's that?
You know, I bet if we open it, we'll find out.
Well, I better get a move on. Just open the door a little bit, and I'll squeeze by.
Yeah.
Hello, Lieutenant. Nice to see you, Sanducci.
Where's he going?
Get in line for Notre Dame tickets. Why did you take up knocking, Sanducci, huh?
New directive went through the department. Show a little more courtesy.
You don't wear it well.
And I figure it's political. They're working on building up a gate for the next policeman's show.
Gotta put you on. You're worth a couple of laughs.
Yeah. I'll speak to the boys. How did you sleep last night, Regan?
Fine.
You shouldn't have. That murder should have given you nightmares.
There's always Ovaltine.
You know, some of the boys down at headquarters figure you know more about this shooting than you're saying.
Well, they made mistakes before.
No, I'm not saying. I feel like they do.
What do you want?
Who knocked off the LaFarge girl?
You're asking yourself.
Wrong answer.
How would you know?
She got it with a .45. What do you want?
You know what I own.
But I don't know about LaFarge.
The shot came in through the window. Even you can figure that.
It could have had help.
Talk to him.
I will when we pick him up. In the meantime, it's you and me.
You got nothing on me.
We found a roll of dough in a briefcase in the bottom bureau drawer. What was it doing there?
I don't know.
All right, Regan. Now let me give you a tip. The word's out LaFarge got a private war on. I don't want any more shooting, so I look at it this way. He's your client. I'm holding you responsible. And Regan.
Yeah?
That what's in mangiare li soldi tutto tu paese, casi un brutaliere stupidi.
What's that mean?
Go find out. You're a detective.
Well, I don't suppose I'll ever find out. He slid out of the room, and I washed up and had a short breakfast at the corner drugstore and went through the morning paper. The LaFarge murder rated a lot of big type, and there was a picture of Alice right next to the weather report, slightly cooler. After the bottom showed my coffee cup, I went over to the Hollywood Library. The city directory gave William LaFarge an Orange Drive home address and occupation printer. The yellow phone book turned up a LaFarge Preston print shop on Santa Monica near La Brea. It was a small place, the color of stale peanut butter, and it was tucked in between a pet store and a beauty parlor. When I stepped inside the front door, the bell rang, and a couple of pair of tortoise shell glasses covering a couple of deep blue eyes looked at me. She was a brunette with light skin, and the voice sounded like it was diving for sponges. The print shop smell got lost in all that taboo.
Morning, sir. Can I help you?
I'm looking for Mr. LaFarge.
There's no Mr. LaFarge here.
Sign outside says there is.
It's an old one. Won't I do one, sir?
Now, that's another chapter.
Come turn the page. I think you'd enjoy it.
You know, you ought to put out cards.
Mr. Preston says business has picked up immeasurably since I started working here.
Let's get back to LaFarge.
I told you he's not here.
Well, try Preston for me.
He's very busy.
Well, they can spare a couple of words.
Now, wait a minute.
Look,
you can't go in there. I'm sorry, Mr. Preston. I told him you were very busy.
It's all right, Lois. Who are you?
My name's Regan. I'm with International Detective. I got some questions about your partner.
Of course. Please leave us, Lois.
See you later, soldier.
Cigar, Mr. Regan?
No, I won't be here that long.
And naturally, I'll be only too happy to tell you anything I can. It was such a shock reading about his poor daughter's death.
A wonderful girl.
Lafarge said that.
Yeah, you'd say it, too, if you knew her. She was very good to him. Well, Mr. Regan, what specifically can I tell you?
The book calls this place Lafarge Preston. Somebody's missing.
Well, you see, Bill and I were in partnership for years. When he decided to pull out, I just planned to leave the name the same.
When did he go?
Just a few weeks ago.
They give a reason?
I don't know exactly. Implied he had enough money or was coming into some. I'm not sure. But it happened so sudden, left me a little short-handed. Still having trouble finding a first-class engraver to take his place.
I left him sitting there chewing a panatella, and I moved out fast like a sailor on shore leave. It was about 11 and getting warmer. I picked up my car and went home. It took me 10 minutes to track down Sanducci. Yeah? Regan.
What do you want me for? Fix a traffic ticket?
Look, I got something for you.
Make it good.
I've been talking with Preston down at the print shop.
Yeah?
Lafarge stepped out kind of fast carrying a roll.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, he knew engraving. I figure you ought to take a good look at that money. It may turn up phony.
I'm not impressed.
All right, I gave it to you. Do what you want.
Look, we checked into the dough already. It's absolutely legit. Now give up, Regan.
Navy didn't.
Hello, Regan. She turn you down?
Who let you in?
Stranger in town. Just catching the sights.
Well, they're better outside.
He's off, Regan. You don't know who you're talking to.
Well, the name's a blank, but you drive a red Austin.
Yeah, it's not bad for a beginner. Hey, got a drink around?
Not for you, no.
If I were you, I'd show a little hospitality to an out-of-town boy.
Chicago. South Side, huh?
You're not being very nice.
You weren't invited.
But now that I'm here, that changes some things, huh?
What do you want?
A drink.
No sale.
Listen, fresh.
Get your hands off me, punk.
I'll go get 6. 45 always starts him.
Like it did Lafarge.
How about getting old Gus a drink, huh? 3 finger will do. Skip the water. You better fix one for yourself.
No, you're the type that drinks alone.
Oh, you better have one, Regan. It's going to be your last.
How do you figure?
Well, I look at it this way. A guy like me gets hired to do a job. Comes 2,000 miles for it, then pulls a boner.
Like knocking off the daughter instead of Lafarge, huh?
Yeah, that's it. Top that off with a witness sitting in the same room who spots my red Austin. Now, let me ask you something. Can I leave him around breathing good air? According to me, nah.
Knees knocked together and he caved in like arches on a fat man. 4 quick steps took me to the door and I looked down the hall. Nothing there. So I made it for the stairway and I looked down the spiral. An old guy was taking the steps 2 at a time and stuffing a gun into his overcoat pocket. It was Bill Lafarge.
You were listening to the story of the man who fought back. Tonight's adventure with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Commissions are still available in the Army Nurse Corps. Graduate registered nurses between the ages of 21 and 45 may qualify for service with this fine organization. Nurses may request active or inactive status. Those on active status enjoy the same privileges as regular Army officers. Those on inactive status may continue their civilian nursing duties, but stand ready to serve in time of emergency. If you are interested in joining the Army Nurse Corps and believe that you qualify for a commission, apply to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. And now, back to the story of the man who fought back and Jeff Regan, Investigator.
Well, things were moving kind of fast. The Lion sent me out to meet a girl named Alice Lafarge. She took me to her father, who wanted a bonded witness to be able to testify to his whereabouts that weekend. That's when a couple of shots came through the window and cut down the daughter. Before homicide put in an appearance, Bill Lafarge was gone, and he didn't show again until Gus killed Alice and then came to see me. And then there was a big roll of money and a print shop in the picture, but it was all out of focus. Well, I moved back into my apartment. The Chicago hood was still there, lying on my rug, and I picked up the phone to call Lieutenant Sanducci. I'd just gotten a couple of numbers out when I caught a familiar smell. It was a load of taboo, and it was packing a .32.
Put the phone down, Regan.
Why?
Because I'm asking you nicely. Put it down. Homicide can wait. Gus isn't going anyplace.
You got a plan, lady?
Mm-hmm.
Well, get back to that print shop and you'll stay out of trouble.
Mr. Preston's so nice. He gave me the afternoon off. I told him my mother got sick.
All right, lady. Tell me about it.
I'm looking for something.
Name it.
The ignition key to Gus's Austin. Now move over there and get it for me.
What's wrong with your car?
I ran out of gas. Move.
Okay.
Kick his gun away. Now try the overcoat pockets. Throw him.
All right. Good catch.
So they tell me. So long, Regan.
I put in a quick call to homicide, and then I waited a couple of minutes to give her a chance to get a head start. When I stepped out of the building, the red Austin was just turning a corner. I followed in my car. We wound up in Glendale. She pulled into a duplex driveway next to an empty lot, and I pulled in under a pepper tree up the street a ways. And then she got out and unlocked the trunk. She looked inside, ripped up the floor matting and then the boards. When she slammed the trunk shut, it figured that she didn't find what she was looking for. Well, 25 minutes later, I found the Lion sitting behind his desk down at the office. He had a bottle of beer in one hand and a package of Sen-Sen in the other. Spread out in front of him was a typewritten piece of paper that he'd just slipped out of his Remington. He had a puzzled look, like a little boy caught in a mixmaster.
Regan, where you been?
Around.
I've been looking all over for you. Sanducci's been calling in every 3 minutes.
What's he want?
The story on how Gus got laid out in your apartment.
Well, I'll drop him a note.
He wants it now.
He's got time. He doesn't come up for a pension for years. They turn up Lafarge yet?
No, but I turned up something. What would you say if I told you Lafarge did time once?
On a counterfeit rap?
How'd you know?
It figured. That Lois dame is scratching around for something.
The feds put him away for 10 years for making up some phony bonds or stocks or something like that.
Uh-huh. How's his daughter fit?
She waited for him till he got out and then tried to help him play it straight.
What'd you get on Gus?
Who cares about him?
Lois.
Lafarge wasn't in on that bond job alone.
Who else?
He had a partner, the guy who runs the print shop, Preston.
Well, you're doing better.
I figure it this way. Preston's got a new racket, and J. Edgar would be real happy to know all about it.
Yeah.
We're going to be the ones to tell him.
How much is the reward?
I don't even know if there is one.
Oh, stop it. When gold went up to $35 an ounce, you pulled your mother's teeth.
Regan, you're getting out of line.
And then you bawled her out for not having more cavities.
Now, you get over to Preston and have a talk with him.
Yeah.
Regan.
Yeah?
Remember, if we crack this thing, it'll mean more money in your pocket, too.
No room for it with your hand there already. I left him sitting there doodling dollar signs, and I went out into the street. It was turning evening. I picked my car out of the lot, and 30 minutes later, I stopped on the corner of Santa Monica and La Brea. The fog was rolling in by then, and the streetlights were trying real hard. I walked to the front door of the print shop. I shook it a little, but nothing gave, so I moved around to the back. The place inside was as dark as a saloon in Kansas, but somebody inside was handy with a gun. So I cracked the window with a rock, and I climbed inside. It smelled like target practice on a rifle range. Preston was curled up on the floor like a piece of wet tissue paper, and there were 2 holes in him. Well, the game wasn't over, but they were running out of players. I moved for the phone to call the police, and that's when I spotted Bill Lafarge. He was slumped down in a chair with a gun in his hand, and he looked tired. It took a lot of shaking to bring any words out of him. Hey, come on, Lafarge. Hey.
Stop shaking. I'm up. He dead?
Yeah?
Yeah, he was a bum.
Want to give me that gun?
Sure. You got a call into the cops?
No, not yet.
We'll use my car.
Any way you want it.
It don't matter much no more. Things go easy for some guys. Other guys get all the rocks.
You got a couple of answers?
Why not? Preston did a tie-in with a gambling syndicate out of Las Vegas. Some joker had a hot idea.
Keep going.
Counterfeit 20,000 New Year's Day bowl tickets and sell them on the open market at $5 plus.
That's big business for the 100,000.
But I didn't take. Preston got sore because I wouldn't do the engraving, and he got somebody else.
That doesn't add up to murder.
Yeah. Did when his head got working overtime worry, and I had too many answers.
And he hired that Chicago boy with the bad eyes.
Yeah. He got my daughter by mistake.
Where are the bowl tickets?
Who cares?
How does Lois fit?
I don't know.
All right.
Front door is closer to my car. You drive, Regan. Oh, traffic makes me nervous.
Well, Lafarge was driving a Nash, and it was parked at a filling station. We fought the night traffic downtown to police headquarters and tore Sanducci away from his pinochle game. He sent a couple of boys out to clean up the print shop and then moved Lafarge into a room with a secretary to get the story on paper. I'd heard it before, so I started for home, but Sanducci had other ideas. He put me in a private little room with white walls, and he told me to wait. I thought maybe he'd gone on his vacation, but he finally came in.
Yeah, getting tired of waiting, Regan?
Do you care?
No.
You got something to say?
Maybe.
Well, then spit it out, because I got a date.
It'll keep.
Why are you holding it?
I had to do some checking.
You got all you need?
I didn't think so.
Well, you got it now.
Get still, Regan. I'm not ready to let you go.
Now, listen, Power. Just because you're wearing a badge inside that coat...
Shut up and listen to me. It took me 18 years to turn in those overstuffed shoes for thin soles. I'm not letting a two-bit detective tell me how to handle my business.
You could stand it.
You and that crummy boss of yours a license for the state of California, and we can lift it for acts detrimental to public welfare. We got a whole bladder full.
Tell that to the line.
I'm telling it to you. And that's all. Beat it.
Okay.
Oh, Regan.
Yeah?
One thing more. There's a big hole in Lafarge's story.
What do you mean?
Look at his gun.
Well, what about it?
Look at the caliber.
It's a 38.
That's not the weapon that killed Gus and Preston. You sure you don't own a 32?
Well, Lafarge was more used up than he figured. He couldn't tell where the dream left off and the murders began. Oh, the whole thing was a screwy picture, but the artist had a woman's touch. 25 minutes later, I pulled my car to a stop in front of a lemon-colored duplex out in Glendale. A high school boy, breathing hard, told me that the good-looking girl lived upstairs. I just hit the top of the landing when the door of her apartment opened and a couple of pieces of airplane luggage moved out. Her ticket didn't show, but it figured to be marked for Las Vegas. When Lois saw me, she looked kind of confused, like a penguin in Death Valley.
Regan.
Hey, your memory's good.
I wish you'd told me you were coming. I was dressed for it.
Oh, it's better this way. You're fixed for traveling.
What do you mean?
We'll talk about it inside, huh?
I'd like to. You know that, but I have a few things...
Come on, move it, lady.
Well, what's come over you?
What's inside the suitcase?
You can work that out yourself, Regan. You've been by a woman's shop.
Throw it open.
It'll embarrass you.
I'll take a chance. All right, now dump it over. Come on, sis. Your time's running out. Oh, yeah, sure.
Preston has the tickets in an asbestos box hidden in the furnace. I finally turned them up. Regan, they're worth over $100,000.
Yeah, that's what Lafarge said.
I know where to unload them.
It won't do you any good.
What do you mean?
There's no P exit to hatchet. Come on, don't scramble for that 32. It's out of reach.
Let go of me.
You threw those holes into Gus and Preston, figuring homicide had stick Lafarge with a rap, knowing he was out for revenge.
Let me go.
Even the old guy didn't know what was going on.
No, he didn't.
No, but ballistics did.
Regan.
Yeah.
This could mean a lot of dough to us, you and me. We form a partnership.
Yeah, before it's getting damp.
Don't be a piker. Here's your chance to really turn into something.
Well, now you can check with me when you get out, lady, to see if I made it. Well, it all blew apart fast like an atom at Caltech. Sanducci came down and picked up Lois. She had herself a pretty good thing for a while. Preston could run off the phony bowl tickets, and all she had to do was to sell them. Even though murder got thrown in, she could have stayed clean if she hadn't got her gun calibers mixed. Well, Lafarge was walking the streets in a couple of hours, and the Lion was real happy the way things worked out. He got his picture in the Police Gazette and picked up 2 bona fide passes to the Rose Bowl game. He promised to take me to the game with him. He did. He let me have the ticket at the regular price.
Jack Webb is featured as Jeff Regan with Herb Butterfield as Anthony J. Lyon. It's CBS at the same time next week for more hard-boiled action and mystery with Jeff Regan, Investigator. Written by Larry Roman, produced by Sterling Tracy. Alice was played by Lorette Bilbrandt. Charles Steele was Preston. Ken Christie was Lafarge. Jack Petruzzi was Sanducci. Yvonne Tatey was Lois, and Sidney Miller was Gus. 29,000 nurses are needed now to join the new Army Nurse Corps Officers Reserve. For the first time in history, qualified nurses have the opportunity of receiving commissions in the regular Army Reserve. These nurses will remain on inactive status, ready to serve their country in time of emergency. 4,000 of them, if they wish, may choose active duty. All nurses who receive commissions will benefit from the opportunity for specialized training offered to them by the Army. Inactive reserve status will not interfere with the nurse's civilian life, but the educational opportunities offered her by the Army Medical Department will be of great advantage in her work. So don't wait. If you're a registered graduate nurse between the ages of 21 and 45, drop a card for complete information to the Adjutant General, Washington, D.C. Original music for this program is by Milton Charles. Bob Stevenson speaking. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The story you're about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and...
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to robbery detail. An ex-convict is accused of robbery and murder. 4 witnesses identify him as the killer. The man's arraigned in municipal court and held to answer. Your job? Investigate.
Fatima, America's first, largest-selling blended cigarette. Now, king size.
See the difference, taste the difference, smoke the difference. And in Fatima, the difference is quality.
See the difference. Fatimas are 21% longer.
Taste the difference. Enjoy Fatima's extra mildness. Much different, much better flavor and aroma.
Smoke the difference. Get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Yes, in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
So why wait? Switch to Fatima today. Each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, March 12th. It was cold in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of robbery detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. We were on the way over from the office, and it was 10:43 a.m. when we got to the 3rd floor at the Hall of Justice. Municipal Court, Department 82.
You see him, Joe?
I think so, yeah. That's him up front behind the DA's table.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Leo.
Oh, hi, Friday. Jacobs.
Pull up a chair. Yeah, thank you. Who's on the stand first, do you know?
Victim's wife.
Oh.
People versus St. Clair.
People ready. In this case, Your Honor, we'd like to proceed with number 23548.
You may proceed. Is the defendant ready?
Defendant's ready, Your Honor. Call Agnes Holloway.
Agnes Holloway to the stand.
You do solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
State your name, please.
Agnes Holloway.
Calling your attention to the 4th day of March of this year, Mrs. Holloway. Did you see the defendant in your place of business at 2301 Naylor Avenue?
Yes, sir.
What time of day did you first see him at that location?
It was around 9:30.
Will you tell us what you saw the defendant do?
For the purpose of the record, may we ask whether that was in the morning or the afternoon?
Was that in the morning or in the p.m.?
P.m.
Will you tell us what you saw the defendant do and what you heard him say at that place?
You mean before the holdup?
At 9:30. Please tell us what occurred.
Well, I came in about 9:30 at the place. He was already sitting there at the bar.
Continue.
I came in and sat down at the end of the bar. He was sitting about 5 stools from the door. A friend of mine, Doris Fenwick. She's here now. Doris was sitting near him. I went over and talked to Doris for a while. The man didn't say anything. He was just sitting there.
Did you see him drinking anything?
Yes, he was drinking scotch and soda.
You're the wife of George Holloway, deceased. Is that correct?
Yes.
Was he present then?
Beg your pardon?
Was your husband, George Holloway, present at that time?
Yes, he was tending the bar.
By that, do you mean that your husband, yourself, and the defendant were the only persons present?
No, my friend Doris Fenwick. There was a sailor there, too. I don't know who he was. He sat next to the defendant, so...
What occurred then?
As we were ready to close the front door, my husband noticed the light in the men's washroom.
I move that go out. What her husband noticed as a conclusion to the witness.
It may go out.
Well, anyway, my husband went back in to put the light out. And Doris Fenwick and I went out to the sidewalk, and so did the sailor. And the fellow did, too.
The defendant did?
Yes. In a minute, I went back inside to see what my husband was doing, and the defendant followed me back in. I was about as far as the music machine. He put his arm around me, and he had a gun right here. He said, "Lady, this is a stick-up."
Could you describe the gun you saw?
No, I just saw it looked like a pistol to me. I couldn't tell you the make of it.
I move that go out, if Your Honor, please, what it looked like.
I know it was a gun.
The motion will be denied.
You were inside the building when the defendant did that?
Yes. He said, "Keep quiet or I'll kill you."
And where was Miss Fenwick then?
She was out on the sidewalk, talking to the sailor, I think. Doris was expecting her husband to come on the streetcar.
I move that go out.
Miss Fenwick was out on the sidewalk, may stay in, and the balance may go out.
What did the defendant do after that, Mrs. Holloway?
He said, "I will shoot you if you don't keep quiet." He made me walk backwards to where my husband was, and I said, "Johnny, this man has a gun. He says this is a stick-up." And the man said, "Shut up." And he made my husband put his hands up.
Were you in fear of the gun at that time?
No, I didn't have any fear.
Did you believe the defendant would injure you with the gun?
I wasn't afraid. I thought, well, it's a hold-up, and we'll give him the money, and that's all there is to it.
All right. Continue.
Well, when we got to the back room, my husband was trying to open the safe, and he said, "Hurry up. I have your wife covered. I'll kill her if you don't hurry."
The defendant said that?
Yes, and my husband said, "Don't get nervous. You can have anything we have, but don't shoot her." Then my husband got the safe open and took out the money bag and handed it to the man, the defendant. He grabbed it, and then he shot my husband twice.
The defendant shot your husband twice?
Yes.
Do you know what the contents of the money bag were?
About $160.
At any time did you give this defendant authority or your consent to take that money?
No, sir.
The taking of the money was against your will, is that correct?
Yes.
How soon after was it that the officers arrived at the location?
It was about 7 or 8 minutes after that.
Your husband was removed to the hospital?
Yes.
Do you know when your husband died?
He died on the 7th, Friday, 6 o'clock.
You mean on the 7th of March of this year?
Yes, 6 a.m.
Did you see your husband in the coroner's office?
Pardon?
Did you see your husband after death in the coroner's office?
No, I saw him in the hospital.
After death, did you see your husband downstairs in the coroner's office?
No, my son did.
Did you see your husband after death?
Yes, at the mortuary, Monday the 10th, at the mortuary.
And the person you viewed in death was the same Charles A. Holloway who you knew in life as your husband?
Yes, sir.
Do you know Grace Thompson?
Yes, sir. She works for me and my husband.
Was she present at your place of business on this evening?
Yes.
When did she leave there, do you know?
About 5 minutes to 12, midnight.
Can you fix the precise time when your husband was shot?
About 5 minutes after 12.
5 minutes after 12. How many times was the gun fired?
Twice.
How close was the gun to your husband, Charles Holloway?
Must have been about 2 feet.
Do you know Marion Shaw?
Yes.
Was she present on the premises that evening?
She was present that evening.
Do you know Mrs. Sam Garber?
Yes.
Was she present on the premises that evening?
Yes, sir. And that sailor was there, too. I didn't know him, though.
All that you've related occurred in the county of Los Angeles, state of California?
Yes, sir.
Cross examine.
May I have a drink of water, please?
Bill? Would you like to rest a while, Mrs. Holloway?
Yes, please.
We'll have a short recess before the cross-examination.
Joe? Ed?
Yeah, Leo.
Probably won't get to us for a while. You want to go out for a smoke?
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay.
What's your idea on it, Leo?
I don't know. Not to have him bound over to Superior Court.
No, I mean, you think St. Clair's the right man?
Got me. Yeah, just one good piece of physical evidence. I'd feel a lot better about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go. Light?
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
How about St. Clair's alibi? All the angles checked, huh?
All of them. Doesn't hold much water. Can't prove it's a lie, can't prove it's the truth.
Sure hate these things. Don't know which way to go. 4 identifying witnesses, and we know how wrong they can be.
What about that sailor who was supposed to be in the bar at the time? I know homicide didn't do any good. How about you, fella?
No, same, Leo. Nothing yet.
He was the only one who really got a close look at the killer besides the wife, I mean. Killer bumped into him when he ran out of the bar.
Yeah.
If anyone could identify the right man, the sailor could.
Well, nobody at the bar saw him before that night. Nobody's seen him since. There's not a trace of him.
Sure, our best bet. If we could find him, we might put a foundation under the thing.
Yeah, I'll put in with you. There's just one problem.
Yeah.
It's a big Navy. Where do we find him? When 58-year-old tavern owner Charles Holloway was shot and fatally wounded in a holdup on March 4th, there were 5 people in the immediate vicinity. Holloway's wife, a waitress at the tavern, 2 women customers, and an unidentified sailor. Soon after the shooting, the scene of the crime was gone over thoroughly for all physical evidence, but besides the 2 fatal bullets, none was found. The preliminary investigation failed to yield any further leads. A search was started for the missing witness, the unidentified sailor. The 4 known witnesses were brought downtown, where they checked through volumes of pictures of ex-convicts recently released from the state penitentiaries. All of them identified the mugshot of Harold St. Clair, a recent parolee from Chino, where he'd served time for armed robbery. St. Clair was brought in immediately and questioned. He failed to establish an alibi for his whereabouts the night of the holdup and murder. He was arraigned in municipal court, and at his preliminary hearing, the first prosecution witness, the wife of the murdered man, Agnes Holloway, singled him out as the killer. By experience, the working detectives found that identifying witnesses under the strain of being present at a horrible crime can often be mistaken in their identification. In this instance, there wasn't anything else we could do. It was all we had. 11:18 a.m., the preliminary hearing resumed. The witnesses took the stand in turn, and all of them tabbed St. Clair as the murderer. Ed and I testified as the arresting officers. At 3:25 that afternoon, the prosecution rested the case for the people. St. Clair's lawyer offered no defense for the time being.
Your Honor?
Mr. Alexander?
This time the people move that case number 23529 be dismissed on the grounds that it states in substance...
23529? Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Dismissed on the grounds that it states in substance the offense covered in the present case. 23529 covers the offense of robbery and assault with intent to commit murder under the present victim in our case here, Charles Holloway. He was not dead at the time this case 23529 was filed. Subsequent to its filing, he died, and the murder count accomplished that complaint.
Let the record show that on the motion of the district attorney in the case of People versus Harold R. St. Clair, number 23529, that case is dismissed. Declaring to me that the offenses in the within deposition mentioned, to wit, count 1, murder, a felony, and count 2, robbery, a felony, have been committed, and that there is sufficient cause to believe the within named defendant, Harold R. St. Clair, guilty thereof, I order that he be held to answer to the same, and that he be committed to the custody of the sheriff of Los Angeles County without bail.
In the 17 days intervening between St. Clair's preliminary hearing and his arraignment in Superior Court, Ed and I, along with Sergeant Stoner, Beeson, and Leo Tracy, continued our investigation of the case. Physical evidence to either prove or disprove the case against St. Clair was not to be had.
We concentrated on trying to find the all-important missing witness to the killing, the unidentified sailor. We got out an APB along with special letters and bulletins for distribution to local Navy Yard commandants as well as Navy Department officials in Washington requesting help in locating him. It went slow. The day before St. Clair Superior Court arraignment, we got our first lead, but not from where we expected. A two-time robbery loser, Lester Jaffe, who bore a close resemblance to St. Clair, was arrested at a check-cashing agency on South Hoover trying to pass a forged check. He had several prior arrests and convictions for burglary and ADW, and a check of his package showed that he had violated his parole. A .38 caliber S&W revolver found on Jaffe was delivered to Russ Camp in ballistics for examination and comparison. The next day, Monday, March 29th, St. Clair came up for his arraignment in Superior Court. Ed and I were there.
St. Clair.
Defendant is present and ready, Your Honor.
Arraign the prisoner.
Harold R. St. Clair, is that your true name?
That's right.
Harold R. St. Clair, by information number 23549, you're charged in count 1 with the crime of murder, in that on or about March 4th of this year you did willfully, unlawfully, and feloniously, and with malice aforethought, murder one Charles A. Holloway, a human being. To this charge, how do you now plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
In count 2 of the same information, you're charged with the crime of robbery, in that on or about March 4th of this year you did rob one Charles A. Holloway. To that charge, how do you now plead, guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Joe the bailiff.
Oh, yeah.
He's motioning to you. Phone call, I guess. Must be for you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
Gentlemen, have you agreed on what date is convenient for trial?
No agreement as yet, Your Honor.
Harris, a phone call for you, Sergeant. Right here. Okay, thank you. Friday talking. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Yeah, okay, Russ. As soon as we finish here. Yeah, right. Bye.
Joe, Alex here wants to know about a trial date. Any ideas?
Well, we better get all the time you can, Alex. We're going to need it.
Anything you say. What's the matter? We got trouble?
We just had a call from Russ Camp and ballistics.
Yeah.
I figure we got a whole new case to build.
What do you mean?
Well, the man we've got, St. Clair.
Yeah?
Maybe he's taking the rap for somebody else.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette, now king size.
See the difference. Fatima, 21% longer. Taste the difference. Smoke the difference. And in Fatima, the difference is quality.
Yes, you get all the advantages of extra length, plus Fatima quality, which no other king-size cigarette has.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, to convince you quickly, dramatically, that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes, we make this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before April 1st, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild, and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality.
Buy Fatima in the bright, sunny yellow pack. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
March 29th, Monday, 4:15 p.m. After the arraignment of Harold St. Clair in Superior Court, Ed and I checked with Russ Camp in ballistics. He said he'd run tests on the .38 S&W revolver taken from robbery forgery suspect Lester Jaffe the day before. Comparison microscopic examinations of test bullets fired from the gun taken from Jaffe and the two slugs which had been removed from the body of tavern owner Charles Holloway matched. After checking with Brereton at the CII Bureau in Sacramento, we discovered new additions to Jaffe's long criminal record. We also found out his known M.O. corresponded closely to that of the man who robbed and murdered Mr. Holloway. At a special show-up of both St. Clair and Jaffe, the close resemblance of the two became apparent to the four identifying witnesses. They frankly admitted their mistake and positively identified Jaffe as the killer. Intensive investigation during the next 3 weeks uncovered enough evidence and testimony against Jaffe by associates and informers to give us a good foundation for a murder conviction. But we were still without a lead to one of our most essential witnesses, the unidentified sailor. The first suspect, Harold St. Clair, was cleared of the charge, but detained on a warrant from the Denver Police Department. After arraignment and preliminary hearing in municipal court, the arraignment in Superior Court, Lester Jaffe went on trial for the Holloway killing on June 2nd. Dr. West, the autopsy surgeon, was first to be called by Assistant District Attorney Adolph Alexander. He stated the results of the autopsy on Mr. Holloway and testified as to the cause of death. John Maurer, the police surveyor, was next. He produced the various diagrammatic drawings of the murder scene. The third day of the trial, June 5th.
Garber woman's coming back on. Friend of Miss Holloway?
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Samuel Garber. Be seated.
Proceed with the cross-examination.
Mrs. Garber, at the time you testified against the former suspect, Harold St. Clair, you were just as positive then, were you not, that the hold-up man who killed Mr. Holloway was Harold St. Clair?
Yes, I was, but I also said he didn't have the same type eyes.
You were absolutely sure about Harold St. Clair then, weren't you?
Yes, I guess I was.
And you identified St. Clair and testified a number of times during that examination that St. Clair was the man. Is that right?
I said he resembled the man.
You said he was the man, didn't you?
I said I thought he resembled the man.
You also said there was no doubt of it, didn't you? That the hold-up man was Mr. St. Clair.
Well, I guess so. I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I guess I don't. I don't remember. I'm not sure.
Mrs. Garber, are you sure you remember the man you saw sitting in the bar that night?
Well, I don't know. I've got them both mixed up. I guess I'm not sure.
During the next 2 days, the other 3 identifying witnesses were called to testify and, like Mrs. Garber, were badgered by the defense attorney unmercifully. Despite the efforts of Alexander, the prosecuting attorney, it was apparent the jury was being swayed heavily in favor of the defendant. Even the full day and a half Ray Pinker from the crime lab spent on the stand seemed to have little effect in counteracting the damage done by the confused testimony. To prepare the jury for Russ Camp's expert report and for the presentation of scientific facts about the lethal bullets in the murder gun found on Jaffe at the time of his arrest, Pinker and Assistant District Attorney Alexander gave the jury a thorough briefing on the fundamentals of ballistics. They also pointed out the scientific value of ballistics in determining the guilt or innocence of a defendant. On Thursday, June 12th, Russ Camp took the stand as a prosecution witness and, under questioning, presented the findings of the various tests he'd run on the alleged murder weapon.
Mr. Camp, sometime after you had obtained People's Exhibit 13, did you fire a test bullet or several test bullets from it in the crime laboratory?
I did.
Did you make a comparison of any of those test bullets with Exhibits 3 and 3A, the bullets which killed Charles Holloway?
Yes, I did.
Now, in making your comparison and examination under the microscope, after you had completed the mechanical part of your work, and after you had completed your examination of the observable and comparable sections of the fatal bullets with the test bullet fired from People's Exhibit 13, did you come to any conclusion with respect to the Holloway fatal bullets?
Yes, I did.
And what was that conclusion?
The conclusion was that the fatal bullets, the Holloway fatal bullets, People's Exhibit number 3 and 3A, were fired through the barrel of People's Exhibit number 13.
After another hour of testifying, Russ Camp left the stand. His ballistics report on the murder gun had made an impression on the jury, but we couldn't be sure it was enough to balance the setback the prosecution received from its own witnesses. As far as we were concerned, Jaffe was the guilty man. There wasn't a doubt about it. But the case against him was apparently inconclusive as far as the jury was concerned. The defense attorney obviously had heard about the unidentified sailor who was also present at the scene of the killing. He charged outright in the court that the district attorney was purposely preventing the appearance of the unknown sailor as a witness and was concealing his identity. As he told the jury, the prosecution was afraid that the testimony of their alleged silent witness would damage its case. Meantime, our intensive search for the missing seaman was still underway. Despite half a dozen favorable prosecution witnesses, the case for the people appeared to be on the losing end going into the closing days of the trial. Tuesday, June 17th, one of the final defense witnesses was a Mrs. Albert Dolan, who presented a fair alibi for Jaffe. She claimed Jaffe was at night school at the time of the Holloway killing.
Would you say of your own knowledge that on the night of March the 4th, Mr. Jaffe was at the school until midnight?
Yes, he was.
When you left the school, did you go home alone or with somebody?
My husband and I drove home with Mr. Jaffe.
Anything else that you can remember?
Let me think.
Sure reads a convincing story, huh?
Yeah, I wonder what the connection is.
I don't know. Sure got plenty of them. What do you figure, Joe? The jury, you think we got a chance?
I don't know. Don't bet on it.
Ed, Joe.
Oh, hi, Leo.
Hi. Going bad?
Couldn't be a lot better.
It's getting that way. Just got a call from Wilmington over at the squadron.
Oh, what about?
Sailor we've been looking for. We found him.
Before we left the courtroom, Ed and I briefed the Assistant District Attorney Alexander on the latest development. He put in a special order to the county jail for Harold St. Clair. Ed and I went across the street and met with a long missing murder witness in the homicide squad room. The sailor identified himself as Seaman First Class Rory Malone. He told us that about 3.5 weeks before, he'd happened to see a copy of the bulletin we'd gotten out on him. He checked with his commanding officer and was returned to the mainland from his post on Midway Island. 3:22 p.m., we returned to the courtroom along with Seaman First Class Roy Maslin and conferred with Assistant District Attorney Alexander. The first murder suspect, Harold St. Clair, had already been brought downstairs to the courtroom from the county jail. He was placed at the opposite end of the counsel table from the defendant, Lester Jaffe.
May we approach the bench, Your Honor?
Come forward.
Your Honor, we've just now located a witness in this case. He's in the armed services and must report back for duty tonight. May we have permission to call this witness out of turn?
Permission granted.
Oh. All right, Tom.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before this court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
State your name, please.
Seaman First Class Roy Maslin, United States Navy.
Be seated.
Are you acquainted with the Tavern Cafe at 2301 Naylor Avenue?
Yes, I am.
Were you there on the evening of March 4th of this year?
Yes, I was there a few minutes before midnight.
Will you tell the court in your own words what happened on the premises that night?
Well, it was just a couple of minutes before midnight. People who ran the place, they said they were closing up, so I had a nightcap. Shot dice for the drinks with this guy next to me. I won.
Who was this man?
I didn't know who he was.
After you had your drinks, did you leave the bar?
Yes, I did. The other guy stayed there. I went out to the sidewalk and stood there talking with one of the gals I saw in the bar, and then heard a couple of shots fired. Somebody inside the joint screamed or hollered or something. I was just going to the door to get inside, and this man came rushing out. He hit me square on and went down. I remember seeing him run down the street, the same guy I was drinking with.
Would you recognize this man if you saw him again?
Yes, sir, I would.
Is that man in this courtroom now?
Yes, sir.
Will Your Honor please direct the defendant to stand alongside of Mr. St. Clair so that this witness may properly identify the man involved?
Mr. Jaffe, will you stand up, please? Stand to the right of Mr. Sinclair.
Will you step down from the stand, please, Mr. Maslin, and place your hand on the shoulder of the man who was in the bar with you the night of March 4th?
Yes, sir. This is the man, Jaffe.
Come on, watch your back.
Fast work, sailor.
Really burned up. Guess he'd like to kill me, huh?
You're not the only one, son.
What?
Wait till they read him the verdict.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On June 21st, the jury retired to deliberate the case. In a moment, the results of that deliberation.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, I'd like you to buy a pack of Fatimas on my say-so. I'm convinced that once you see the difference, taste the difference, smoke the difference, you'll switch to Fatima for good. Because in Fatima, the difference is quality. Each king-size Fatima gives you a long, extra mild and soothing smoke with the added protection of Fatima quality. Buy Fatima. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Lester Carl Jaffe was found guilty of murder in the first degree. He was executed in the lethal gas chamber at the State Penitentiary, San Quentin, California.
Exchange Clubs sponsor Crime Prevention Week to remind you that the fight against crime is your fight, the year round.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Vic Perrin, and Virginia Gregg. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Next, it's David Harding and Counter Spy on NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American Broadcasting Company brings to its entire network one of radio's most unusual programs. Pat Novak, for hire.
I'm Pat Novak, for hire. That's what the sign out in front of my office says. Pat Foghorn, for hire. Oh, there are other ways to say it, but down on the waterfront in San Francisco, you got to put your best foot forward, especially if you want to trip up a friend. Down here, a friend is anybody who's been dead more than 10 years. And then it pays to watch out, because if you relax, somebody will come along and knock you on the back of your stomach. Works out all right, though. I rent boats and do anything else you can hide in the dark. It's about all you can ask, because along the Embarcadero, nothing's perfect except the heels. I found that out Wednesday afternoon. She was a lovely girl. The sort of person you'd expect to see in a choir loft. About 3 hours after choir practice. Her hair was red. Her eyes were as cold as rigor mortis. And you knew the first time you met her that you'd been seeing her too often. Must have been about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was walking down toward Pier 19 when she pulled up alongside of me in a cream convertible.
Can I give you a lift?
You already have.
Well, is that love or reflex action?
What's on your mind?
You are Mr. Novak, but don't put on your tracksuit. It's a business matter.
Well, in that case, you've got a name.
I'm Con Regan. I went by your office a few minutes ago, but you were out.
I'm in now. Go ahead.
It won't take me long, Mr. Novak. Stay away from Rory Malone.
Well, I'm doing all right so far. Who is he?
He's important to me. I don't want to lose him, Mr. Novak, so please stay away.
Go tell a girl. I don't even know the guy.
You will. You're not lying now. He's a prize fighter, and someone's going to try and hurt him.
Then you'd rather hurt him first.
I'm willing to pay you to stay away from him.
Suppose I'm going to see him a lot. Will you pay a lot?
I'll give you $300. All right, Mr. Novak?
You know, you're not smart, Angel. If you're pressing that hard, the other team's going to bid, too. The answer's no.
I'm afraid that's up to you. But I'm warning you, don't do it. Please don't do it.
Yeah, that's what Mother used to say. I'm still all right.
Maybe Mother liked you better, Mr. Novak. See you later.
Well, I watched her for a minute as she brushed her hair back and started the car. It was nice hair, and the dress helped, too. It was dark blue and had a V-neck, but the designer believed in big letters. She pulled away and gave me a look you could take on a safari. It was enough to tell me that she was as safe as a tap dancer on a floor full of dynamite caps. I walked up and turned in at Pier 19, and when I reached the door of the office, I could see the old man sitting by the desk. He looked tired and a year older than the Bible. His hands were shaking, and his skin was coarse and the color of an old razor strap. When I walked in, he glanced up at me and looked about as happy as a cocker spaniel with a stomachache.
I could talk to you, please, Mr. Novak.
You'll try it once. Go ahead.
I'm an old man.
You want to argue or go on?
I'm too old, so I must come to someone for help. My name is Hans Newmeyer. I would like you to watch someone for me.
Someone like Rory Malone?
Yeah. But you do not
What
know
is this, Save Rory Malone Week? What's he to you?
I am his manager. Oh, you don't ever hear of me because I'm old and not a very good manager, I guess. After this fight, Rory find new manager, maybe.
Yeah? When's this fight?
Tonight. Oh, you don't know Rory. He's a good boy. He's a very good boy, Rory is.
Yeah, well, good boys don't need watching. Has he got some bad coming out?
Something funny about this fight. He meets with bad people. And Rory is a good boy.
Yeah, I just met one. How deep do they run?
The worst is a fellow named Joe Slagle. He's a bad man, a gambler. Please, Mr. Novak, you just watch Rory tonight and see he's all right.
Are you that rich?
Oh, please, I don't have much money. Just $300, maybe, what I got from the fight. Maybe 300, I don't know. I just got a little money.
It's a tie, Pop. You win the toss.
Please, you don't help me.
You win, Pop. When do I look at him?
Tonight you come before the fight. In the dressing room, I show you to Rory, and you see he's all right.
Yeah, about 9.
Yeah, please, Mr. Novak. I thank you all my life. You watch Rory. I thank you all my life.
Yeah, well, I'm getting short shift on that, but I suppose it's not your fault, Pop. See you at 9. Well, I felt sorry for him when he turned and walked out of there. I could afford it. With $300, you can buy a lot of crying towels. At the door, he turned and smiled once before he shuffled out. He moved down the pier with a nervous, uncertain motion like a flower petal in a warm wind. When he disappeared, I took a cab and rode up to the press club. Oh, I found out a lot about Rory Malone, and most of it was good. He was a lightweight, and Hans Newmeyer had picked him up and brought him through the prelims up to main event stuff. He was fighting tonight against a Cleveland boy named George Zarek, and the betting was even. I ran into a Chronicle man whose wife divorced him and named a fight club as correspondent, and he said not to worry about Joe Slagle, that Rory Malone fought for purses, and that's all. He knew about the girl, Con Regan, but he didn't want to say much, just that she was a fast 5-gated horse trying for 7. Well, I had some dinner, and I went over to the arena about 8:30. When I walked into Rory Malone's dressing room, Hans Newmeyer wasn't anywhere around. I stood over in a corner and watched him get ready for the fight. There was enough liniment being thrown around to keep an old lady's home spry for years. The other handlers were in, watching him tape up Malone and put on the gloves. Most of the people cleared out then. Malone shadowboxed a minute before a second threw a robe around his shoulders and shoved him toward the door. As he passed, I fell in beside him, and we started walking under the arena. A few feet down, I bumped up against him.
What? Sorry?
About what, Hans Newmeyer?
Who are you?
Where's Newmeyer?
What do you care?
My name's Novak. I'm supposed to meet him here. Do you know where he is?
No, he didn't show up. He's probably out drunk.
Does he drink?
No.
Well, that's a funny answer.
I don't know where he is. All I know is I need him tonight. I got to get up to the ring.
I'll go with you.
Suit yourself.
You going to win tonight?
You never know.
Sometimes you do.
Mister, you're either too smart or too dumb.
What's the difference? You can't fight twice in one night.
I want to talk to you, Rory.
Not now, Kitty. After the fight.
Please, Rory, talk to me now.
Kitty, you're crazy. This guy's standing around, a lot of other people. What do you want to do? Put it on the radio?
Where's Hans? He hasn't been around. Where is he, Rory?
I don't know, Kitty. If I knew, I'd get him.
There's something wrong, Rory. I've been watching. I know there's something wrong about this fight.
Yeah. There's only going to be one guy fighting if you don't let me out.
Please, Rory, don't brush me off like a dumb fly. I know there's something wrong. I don't want you to get into trouble.
All right, Kitty.
Oh, don't say all right when you know how I feel. Well, let's talk about you and Joe Slagle. Oh, please, Rory. You don't know what it's like to see somebody you love go crazy.
Your dough is safe, Kitty.
That doesn't count. You know that doesn't count, Rory. The little money I've saved doesn't count next to you. Oh, please, Rory, don't do anything wrong. I'd die. I'd die of terrible heartbreak. It hurt me all my life.
Stop it, will you, Kitty? Now stop crying. Don't worry, I'll win.
Just don't let anything happen, Rory.
I won't. I'll see you after the fight. Coming, Novak?
Yeah.
You're real good with your women, Malone.
After this fight, I want a match with you, Novak.
I've met 2 of them, and they both have you in their dream books right on the fly leaf.
I'll remember. Talk some more.
I'll talk enough to tell you that you're being followed, about 12 inches behind.
That's right, Malone. Keep walking. Turn in the next door.
Hey, wait a minute.
You better walk, Malone, unless you can outrun a bullet.
You too, mister.
I agreed an hour ago.
All right. Open the door for him, Eddie.
Okay.
You stand over here. Now, Malone, take off your glove.
I'm going to need it.
You're going to be eating teeth. Take off your glove. Help him, Eddie. Yeah. That's it. Hold him on the other side, Steve. Put his hand on the table, Eddie. Now give me the block. Yeah. You can cry, Malone. It's going to hurt. Hold him up. Keep his hand out there, Eddie. The glove back on, Malone.
It's too smashed up.
It'll hold the pieces. Put it on.
You better put it on, Malone. You're overmatched.
That's it. Now go on up there and look good.
Yeah, why don't you loan him the gun and he'll win in 2 rounds?
Look, mister, I don't know who you are, but I'm sick of your mouth. It's a big floor, so stretch out.
During the next 2 hours, they either moved me or the arena because I woke up in an alley down near the Golden Gate Theater. It was in back of a restaurant, and I was lying there trying to look good in a mixed green salad. My head was about the size of a diving bell, and my clothes were so rumpled and dirty I looked like a leg man for the Hobo News. I tried to get to my feet once, but it wasn't easy. It was like trying to push a basketball through a stovepipe. I think it was close to 11 when I got out to the street. I didn't even buy a paper to find out about the fight. I grabbed a cab and went up to my apartment, ironing out my spine. It was a good idea, but the girl at the desk had a message from Hans Neumeyer. He was out at the California General Hospital, and he wanted to see me right away. When I got there, he was at the end of a ward on the 3rd floor, but the duty nurse wouldn't let me by. Oh, she was a real pretty nurse, if you like pure mammal. Somebody buzzed, and when she oozed down the hall, I ducked into the ward and started looking for Hans Neumeyer. It was dark, and he was away down at the end behind a white screen. He looked tired, and his eyes were moist and soft, like a ripe fruit that's just been squeezed too hard.
Please, Mr. Novak, you come to see me.
Yeah, just as soon as I got your message.
You make mistake with Hans. I don't send message.
Somebody wants to be your secretary. What happened to you?
In my room. I just go to my room. Somebody is there. I don't know. Rory is all right?
I limped a little, mister. Your boy got his hand smashed.
Rory's a good boy.
He's got a good girl. Who's Kitty?
She's go with Rory a long time. Save money to marry with.
Wait a minute. Keep still.
Something the matter?
Yeah. Somebody coming. Down this way. Coming up behind that curtain.
Maybe Rory comes to visit me.
Whoever came to visit him didn't stay long. The old man leaned back in the bed and quit without any fanfare, like a long summer coming to an end. Well, I went out to get the nurse, and I found her down at the end of the hall giving an intern some greedy talk. She hadn't heard the shots, and they hadn't seen anybody come out of the ward. I told her as much as I could, and then she wheeled the old man into another room and called homicide. Well, that call to homicide didn't help, because from now on, things weren't going to improve. I was fighting a forest fire with a can of kerosene. About 20 minutes later, Inspector Hellman showed up. He was full of finesse and fury, and he came charging over about as graceful as a lame lobster.
Hello, Novak. You're up late.
I had company most of the time.
Yeah? Did he bore you?
Somebody got tired of him. It happened behind a screen down there in the ward.
Who is he?
Guy by the name of Hans Neumeyer. He manages a fighter named Rory Malone.
Yeah?
The killing's mixed up with a fight fix.
Not the Zarek fight.
Yeah, that's right. They got to Rory Malone 10 minutes before ring time.
You got a thin story, Novak.
Look, I got a fat one. And I got all the gambling dough in town on my side. The old man got it because Rory Malone was dumped in that fight.
I don't believe it.
You don't have to believe it, Hellman. They smashed him up. His right hand was as limp as an old piece of lettuce when he climbed into that ring.
They should have smashed both hands.
Huh?
Because Rory Malone won by a knockout in the 5th round. Try another page, Novak.
When Hellman told me Rory Malone won that fight, I might as well have handed him a feather. I stood there feeling like a guy peddling dope at his sister's wedding. How could Rory Malone have won that fight without a hand grenade? When I saw the hand, it wasn't strong enough to flatten a piece of silk on an ivory table, and yet he won by a knockout in the 5th round. I pointed to one thing. Zarek had taken a dive. But why the double fix? Why had they smashed Rory's hand? Oh, it was a goofy pitch, like sending for a plumber to fix a hole in Boulder Dam. I didn't have time to wrestle around with it because Hellman had talk on his mind.
You can't get a bookie in town to take bets on this one, Novak.
No, not with you setting the odds.
They were that way when I got here, so don't write up a clean bill of health. The guy's dead and nobody else is volunteering.
Oh, you'd muff a confession anyway. Before you tumbled, they'd have to cut it in stone across the front of City Hall.
What were you doing with the old man?
Helping him over the rough spots.
Or taking him over the hurdles?
He hired me to watch Rory Malone. They were stepping up the pace on his boy.
For instance?
For instance, Joe Slagle. Everybody says he had a stake in the fight.
You don't throw a fight by winning in the 5th round.
That's what the book says, but sometimes the book's wrong. You better look up Joe Slagle, and on the same trip you can stop by and see a gal named Con Regan.
Yeah? Why?
She's Malone's new sparring partner, a tall redhead with lots of dry cells.
Oh. She sounds nice. I'll talk to her. And Slagle, too. But I'm going to find out about you and Rory Malone first. I'm going to run down the stuff on this fight, and I'll find out where you fit in. Don't worry, Novak. I'll dig you out.
You could dig the jelly out of an omelet, Hellman. Look up the girl and Joe Slagle. They'll talk.
Not about each other.
There's some connection there. I'll give even money they're friends.
They ought to be.
What?
They were married a month ago in Las Vegas. Or don't you know about love?
Hellman stood there a moment and smiled like a guy who's just killed a landlord. And then he turned around and walked out. Well, I stayed until they wrapped up the old man. And after that, I went to the Chronicle office and folded clips on Joe Slagle. He'd been to 3 jails and gotten his master's at Alcatraz, and there were some pictures of him at the racetrack. He had a face any museum would buy and a forehead that was so low he must have had to look down to see his hairline. There was one other thing about him I noticed. He was the same guy who'd smashed Rory Malone's hand. I began to wonder about that friendship, but it was getting late and I had to work fast, so I looked up the only honest guy I know, an ex-doctor and a boozer by the name of Jocko Madigan. Well, he's a smart guy until he decided a head on your beer is worth more than a head on your shoulders. I finally found him in a little joint down on Geary Street talking some woman into giving up all men under 50.
Ah, Patsy. I've missed you in a rather trivial way.
Yeah, all right, Jocko.
I'm giving this woman a lecture on diminishing returns.
Jocko, will you stop drinking long enough to listen?
Patsy, you fail to understand my drinking. Actually, I hate whiskey, but I go on drinking as a sort of sop to Providence.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows the guardian angels take care of small children and tipplers, and since I've passed the age where I look well in rompers, this is a very clever dodge to get a little outside help.
Jocko, are you ever going to change?
Patsy, don't you know what a burden change is to a man as old as I am?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's not the change we mind, it's the way it happens, by degrees, never giving you a chance to remember anything else, so it's heartbreaking, Patsy.
All right.
It's like visiting a half-forgotten neighborhood. It hasn't changed completely, just parts of it. A few old houses and some human remnants is still around, enough to remind you of the change, but never enough to make you happy. It's that way with growing old.
Will you listen?
They don't allow you to grow old suddenly and leave. They insist on this policy of having you dribble off into eternity. It's undignified, Patsy, feeling like a bowl of old dishwater with the stopper pulled out.
Jocko, I want to talk to you.
Oh, why didn't you say so? What's the matter?
An old guy by the name of Hans Newmeyer is dead.
Oh, bless him.
Homicide's full of fever. They think I killed the old man.
What did he do before he stopped doing it?
A fight manager. He hired me to watch his fighter, Rory Malone. He should have hired a team because somebody got to him in the hospital tonight.
How do you fit in?
I was just passing through when the noise started.
That was General Custer's problem.
It's tied up with tonight's fight. Newmeyer was afraid of a gambler named Joe Slagle. He was around tonight and smashed Malone's hand before ring time.
That's a hard way to lose.
Well, it's a harder way to win. Malone won by a knockout in the fifth.
Was he fighting his father?
I'm not getting any place, Jocko, and I'm doing it in a hurry. It's a bad fit all the way around. They took 2 tries to get the old man, and if Slagle bought the fight, why'd he smash Malone's hand?
Let's have a drink.
Jocko, you gotta help me.
Oh, it's the thirst that's confusing.
I want you to get up to Rory Malone's place. You can find it in the book. Go through his stuff and try to pick up a lead, will you?
Why don't you do it?
I'm going to look up a girlfriend named Con Regan. She's married to Slagle, but she's trying to work Malone into the act.
Oh, well, in that case, I'd be in the way.
Look, I'm in a spot, Jocko. Now get up to that apartment, will you?
What if Malone walks in and finds me going through his stuff?
Stop worrying.
Well, he almost killed a man with one broken hand. Suppose someone smashed the other one.
Well, I had to do something quick because the kettle was on to boil. By the time Hellman got to him, Slagle would have an alibi, and my story about the smashed hand wouldn't prove a thing. Oh, I had to grope around and pretend like a guy on the second verse of the national anthem. I decided to tag by Slagle's place, and on the way, I bought a paper to read about the fight. Malone looked real bad for 4 rounds and then came out of the woods fast with a left hand in the 5th. It was about midnight when I got to Slagle's apartment, and began to look more and more like it when Con Regan opened the door. Oh, I could see Rory's point. She was the sort of a woman you'd never give a second look, because the first would paralyze you. Her red hair looked brighter now, and, well, legs like that are the reason silkworms are born. She smiled, and you knew if you never made Naples, you could die happy with her. But I guess she picked her friends.
It's too late for the 300 now, Mr. Novak.
I'm working free. Invite me in, huh?
Sorry, darling.
You look lonely. Where's Slagle?
I agreed to marry him, not follow him.
How about Malone? Somebody killed his manager.
I'd like to help you, Mr. Novak, but I don't like you well enough.
Well, you can make love later. Give me answers now. Where are you going?
You're not welcome.
I want to know what those bags are packed for.
I don't trust the drawers. Now get out of here, Mr. Novak.
Calm down and put the gun away.
Get out of here. You came uninvited. I'll kill you the same way.
Hello, Novak. You going to lose an argument?
Well, it looks that way. If she's yours, call her off, Malone.
You're too tough, Con. Let him walk out.
He steamed in here full of questions.
That's a bad way to answer. Relax.
That's what your man Newmeyer's doing. Somebody killed him tonight.
I know that, Novak.
Your eyes aren't very red.
I can't help it, Novak. All I can do is square his beef.
Well, you can start with your girlfriend. She's leaving town, or did you buy the tickets?
What's your hurry, Con?
If I want to leave, I can leave, Rory.
I'll argue with you.
You'll get the short end, Rory, because I'm leaving. Stay away from me.
You're too close.
Rory, stop it. Someday they'll mess you even, Rory.
Maybe it's a referee. I'll get it. Yeah.
You got a deep voice, Miss Regan.
What's on your mind, Hellman?
Joe Slagle right now. He cleaned up in tonight's fight.
Not with a betting even.
Wasn't after the first round. Word got out that Malone broke his hand. The betting changed.
And Slagle covered every bet in the house.
That's right.
Well, the old man tumbled before it happened. That's what he was afraid of.
And the shot killed him?
Slagle did. You got a motive now, Hellman. You better look him up.
We did. He's dead.
He couldn't be dead.
If he's not, the bullet holes are good fakes. See you soon, Novak.
Well, I didn't talk to the girl and Rory because I knew they'd dummy up on me and I had nothing to go on. Oh, it was like trying to build a wall out of jelly consomme. Nothing added up now. Whose side was Rory on, and where did that other girl, Kitty, fit in? My luck was on the black market tonight, and I knew it. So I went by my place to check with Jocko. He was in the kitchen, and he looked worried.
Ah, Patsy, I was going to break open the thermometer until I found this bottle in the closet.
All right, Jocko. What'd you find out?
That it pays to know Joe Slagle. There's a $20,000 check in Malone's desk. Slagle signed it.
He could afford it. Somebody killed him an hour ago.
Where was Malone?
I don't know, but that's not gratitude.
Well, maybe he'll wire regrets. You'd better get up there. All his stuff's packed for a long trip.
Well.
A couple of trunks and all his bags. Does that sound like a weekend party?
I don't know, Jocko. He's kind of fancy. Maybe he likes a lot of laundry. Up to now, it was like trying to melt a pound of diamonds, but when the turn comes, everything happens in a hurry, and things began to fall faster than snow off a warm roof. If Jocko was right, it meant Rory and the girl fought, but they did a lot of clinching between rounds. Well, I got a hold of Hellman and brought him up to date, and then I started for Rory Malone's apartment. When I got there, Hellman was outside the door listening, as quiet as a washing machine full of pebbles.
They must be in the back room. I can't hear a thing.
You couldn't hear a rifle shot in a boxcar, Hellman. Let's get a better view, huh?
Hello, Novak.
Gonna miss your train, Malone.
I don't believe you.
It's a chance to bet, Mr. Novak.
This is Inspector Hellman from Homicide.
Well, you guessed wrong, Inspector. I'm covered for Joe Slagle. Novak here's alibi for Miss Regan.
We can check.
You're scraping bottom, mister.
We can start with that $20,000 check from Joe Slagle.
That's where you'll stop, too. My $20,000 covered the sale of my contract. The fight commission can beef, but that's all. You ready, Con?
I hope you are, too, because you're going downtown.
Look, fella, you'll make us miss a train, but we'll catch the next one.
You're wishing now, Rory.
Who's this?
A fast friend with a slow burn. Hello, Kitty. Your boyfriend's gonna leave. Say goodbye.
Please, Rory, you're crazy to go with her.
She makes me that way, Kitty. I'm sorry.
Rory, I've done too much for you. I've kept loving you all this time. Can't leave. You can't leave now. I don't want to be alone.
Buy a dog.
No, Rory. No, I won't let you go.
You're too good with guns. Drop it. You better take her, Hellman. She's anxious.
Oh, please, Rory. I loved you too much for this. I loved you enough to kill somebody. You can't leave, Rory. You can't leave me to myself.
When the guy comes, tell him where the baggage is.
What'll become of you, Rory Malone? What'll become of you, Rory Malone, when you have to think about me? When you hear the sound of me in your head? Oh, you're brave, Rory. You're brave to leave me alone.
Come on, Con. In a place like this, we're wasting you.
Come back! Come back, Rory Malone! Come back long enough to watch them laugh at me. Watch them laugh at me for the fool I am. Oh, it's the great fool of the world I am.
It doesn't prove much, except the right kind of a heel can grind you into the dirt fast. Well, Hellman pieced most of the story together. Slagle and Malone planned the fight, and it went off without a hitch. Slagle bought off the other fighter so that Malone could win as soon as the bets had been covered. Hans Newmeyer had an idea, but he liked Rory too much to believe it. They found out he was coming to me, and Con Regan tried to scare me off. She looked too good to Rory, and the scheme started to grow. He lied to Slagle after the fight about Newmeyer, so Slagle went into the hospital and killed the old man. That left Slagle around to cloud things up, so Rory Malone told a phony story to his girlfriend, Kitty. She loved him enough to kill Slagle. There was no way to stick Rory Malone. He could never fight again with that hand. But he had a check for $20,000 to start on, and that's enough to keep love in the living room. Well, Hellman asked only one question. Why would a smart gambler like Slagle take a chance on giving Malone a check for $20,000? I guess Malone found out when he tried to cash that check because Joe Slagle was big-hearted but broke.
The American Broadcasting Company has just brought you the 6th of a new series, Pat Novak for Hire, starring Jack Webb. Pat Novak is produced and directed by William P. Russo. Jocko Madigan is played by Tudor Owen. Inspector Hellman is played by Raymond Burr. Music was composed and conducted by Basil Adlam. In our cast were Yvonne Patey, Stephen Schnabel, Frank Lovejoy, William Baeff, and Ted DeCorsia. This program is being released to our servicemen and women overseas through the worldwide facilities of the Armed Forces Radio Service. Be with us again next week when over most of these same ABC stations, we will bring you Pat Novak for Hire. This program came to you from Hollywood. Now, a listening reminder. Don't miss Gene Arthur and Robert Morley when they star in the compelling drama Yesterday's Magic on Theater Guild on the air tonight. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
The story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, brings you Dragnet on both radio and television. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to homicide detail. A woman reports the disappearance of her 30-year-old brother. He's been missing for only 2 days, but the manner of his disappearance was sudden. Out of the ordinary. Your job? Investigate. Fatima, America's first largest-selling blended cigarette. Fatima, now best of all king-size cigarettes.
Prove it yourself today. Compare Fatima with the king-size cigarette you're now smoking.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Definitely the best quality in its class, but the same price as the cigarette you're now smoking.
Buy Fatima in the bright sunny yellow pack. Best of all king-size cigarettes.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Wednesday, November 14th. It was overcast in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of homicide detail. My partner's Ed Jacobs. The boss is Captain Lorman. My name's Friday. We were on the way out from the office, and it was 8:56 a.m. when we got to the S&H Paper Company on 4th Street, the rear entrance.
Where do we find her, Joe? Upstairs?
No, main floor. She told me we'd find her in the timekeeper's office. She said it was near the back door entrance. We couldn't miss it.
Let's give a look down the corridor, huh? Maybe one of the workers can tell us.
Yeah, right. Looks like some kind of an office there, doesn't it? Just beyond the time clock?
Let's see. Paymaster, head timekeeper. Yeah, that's it.
The door's locked, Ed. You want to rap on the pay window?
Yeah.
Yes?
Police officers, ma'am. We have an appointment with Miss Edith Tabor.
Oh, yes, officers. I'm Edith Tabor. Just a moment, please. I'll ring the buzzer. Just push on the door.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Ed.
All right.
Are you the one I talked to on the phone, Sergeant Friday?
Yes, ma'am, that's right. This is my partner, Sergeant Jacobs.
How do you do?
This is about your brother, Miss Tabor. Ralph Tabor, is that right?
Yes, that's right. I know there must be something wrong. Ralph's been gone since Sunday. No one's seen him. No one's heard from him. I'm worried sick about it.
Last time you saw him was on Sunday?
No, I didn't actually see him. I talked to him on the phone. We made a date for dinner. Ralph and I always have dinner together Sunday nights. About the only time in the week we do get to see each other.
I see. I believe you told me on the phone you already checked with most of his friends, the places he'd most likely be. Is that right?
I've called everyone I can think of. No one's seen him.
Your brother's never done anything like this before, miss? Going off without telling anyone?
No, never. I'm very worried, Sergeant.
Can you think of any reason at all why he'd want to disappear of his own free will, I mean?
No. No reason in the world for it. He seemed perfectly all right when I talked to him on the phone Sunday. Everything was fine. We made a date for the movies Tuesday night. That was for last night. Picture downtown we wanted to see. He made a special point of it. I just know something must have happened.
Mm-hmm. I gather you know most of your brother's friends. You've kept in fairly close touch with him, huh?
Yes, we get together at least once a week, as I say. I'm 4 years older than Ralph. I've looked after him since we were kids. We've always been together, the last 5 or 6 years especially, ever since Mama died.
Your brother in a pretty stable mental condition, was he? No financial worries, nothing of that kind?
No, sir, nothing I know about.
I'd like to double-check this information that you gave me on the phone, Miss Tabor. Mm-hmm. The name and address and his description.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
The full name, Ralph Lawrence Tabor, 14316 Almaden Street, male, white American, occupation, interior decorator. Is that it?
Yes, that's right.
Height, 5'11", 155 pounds, dark blonde hair, gray eyes, fair complexion, birthmark on left side of neck.
Yes, that's all correct.
Your brother in the habit of carrying large sums of money around with him, do you know?
No, not that I know of. He has a good job. He's not getting rich at it, though. I don't think I've ever seen Ralph with more than $20 or $30 on him at a time.
Who was the last person to see him, miss? You any idea?
Well, I talked to Ralph's landlady. She told me she saw Ralph and this friend of his, Andy Howard, going into Ralph's apartment. That was about 6 o'clock Sunday night. Ralph was supposed to meet me at 7:30, never showed up.
Now, this friend of your brother's, Miss Tabor, this Andy Howard, are you acquainted with him?
Yes, but I don't know him too well. I only met him 2 or 3 times. He lives in the apartment house next door to Ralph's, so the two of them were friends in the Navy together during the war. Good friends.
You tried to get in touch with this Andy Howard?
Yes. I called Ralph's apartment when he didn't show up for our dinner date Sunday night. There wasn't any answer, so I looked up Andy's number in the phone book and called him.
Was he at home?
Yes. Tried to talk to him, but it didn't do much good. Strange.
How's that?
He pretended he didn't even know me.
After we finished our interview with Edith Tabor, Ed Jacobs and I started out to double-check with all the known friends and associates of her brother. We talked to his employer and the people he worked with. None of them had seen him subsequent to 6 o'clock Sunday night. None of them could think of any good reason why he suddenly would want to pick up and leave his job and friends. The people he knew outside of his work told us the same thing. Nobody could explain it. Along the way, we inquired about Ralph Tabor's friend, Andy Howard. Most of the people we talked to knew him as a close friend of Tabor's. We checked at Howard's place of employment, but they told us he hadn't shown up for work since the previous Friday. We drove to Howard's apartment, checked with the manager, and he said that Howard had moved without notice late Sunday night. We crossed over to the apartment house next door, where Tabor lived, and talked to the landlady, a Mrs. Higbee. She corroborated the story we'd gotten from Tabor's sister that Andy Howard was last seen entering Tabor's apartment at about 6 o'clock Sunday night. Tabor was with him. Mrs. Higbee was sure of that. She showed us up to the 3rd floor to Ralph Tabor's apartment. The 2 rooms and the adjoining kitchenette were immaculate. There wasn't a thing out of place.
Neat as a pin, Joe, not a thing out of order.
Yeah, it's the same in the bedroom. Say, Mrs. Higbee.
Yes, Sergeant.
Do you provide maid service with the apartments here?
No, we don't. We've been thinking about it, though. Haven't quite made up our minds. Such a task, getting good, competent help these days.
And the tenants are responsible for the entire upkeep, huh?
Yes. Everything but painting, wallpapering, things like that. Doesn't Mr. Tabor keep things spotless? Just spotless?
Yes, ma'am. There's just one thing I wanted to ask you about. It's over here by the window.
Yes.
Now, this wire here, apparently an aerial connection for a television set. Looks like...
Yes. Mr. Tabor does have a television. Why?
Well, I don't notice a set anywhere in the apartment. Would you happen to recall if he sent it out for repairs, anything like that?
No, not that I know of. Besides, this doesn't seem like Mr. Tabor at all.
How do you mean, Miss Higbee?
Well, he's always so neat, fastidious. The end of that wire there looks like it was torn off the connection, doesn't it? Along the windowsill, too. Isn't that terrible? Fasteners for the wire ripped right out of the woodwork. That certainly doesn't seem like Mr. Tabor.
Anyone else besides him have access to this apartment, ma'am?
No one that I know of. No one besides myself, I mean. I have duplicate keys to all the apartments. Oh, I just happened to think.
Yes, ma'am?
If a repairman did move the set out, it's possible my houseboy might know about it. Sam, that's my houseboy.
How would he know about it?
Well, it's a rule of the house, all furniture, heavy things like that. They have to be taken down in the freight elevator. It opens right onto the alley in back of the building. It's very handy.
Yes, ma'am.
Sam's the only one who operates that elevator. That's why I say it's possible he might know about it. Would you like to have me ask him?
I wonder if you would, please.
Oh, surely. It won't take but a minute, and I'll be right back.
Thank you, Miss Higgins.
Joe, you want to have a look over here?
Yeah. What do you got?
This wall bed here. I tried to pull it down. It's stuck. Stand right here. Oh, over here. See if you notice anything.
Yeah, I do. You want to give me a hand? See if we can't get the bed down?
Yeah.
Push it on your side then.
Okay.
That's it. Okay. It's coming down now.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Tabor, you think?
Well, the description seems to fit. Beaten to death looks like, doesn't it?
Something sticking out under the bed covers there.
Yeah, it's a claw hammer. Stains all over it.
Vicious. Guess the killer wanted to make sure.
It's one of the worst I've seen.
Feel sorry for the sister. She was pretty close to him. It's going to be tough on her.
No tougher than it was for him. 2:38 p.m. We phoned the office, told them what we'd found, and then we put in a call for Lieutenant Lee Jones and the crime lab crew. While we were waiting, we questioned the landlady again, Mrs. Higbee. She said her houseman, Sam, told her he knew nothing about a television set being moved out of Ralph Tabor's apartment. However, it was possible somebody could have taken the set down in the main elevator late at night without being seen. Mrs. Higbee also told us that Tabor had a car. We checked the apartment garage, but it was gone. All Mrs. Higbee could tell us was that it was a late model car and that Tabor often loaned it to his friend, Andy Howard. Sergeants Al Shambra and Joe LaMonica from Homicide arrived, and together the four of us interviewed the employees and the tenants in the apartment building. They gave us little or nothing at all. A few minutes before 3 p.m., the crime lab crew showed up and started their preliminary investigation. We put in a call for the coroner. From the obvious lack of fingerprints in usual places around the apartment, it was apparent that the murderer had taken great precautions to cover his tracks. 3:35 p.m., the deputy coroner arrived, and after the preliminary investigation was finished, the body was removed to the county morgue. Ed and I went back to the office, checked our DMV, and got out on all points on Tabor's car, and also on the friend he was last seen with, Andy Howard. R&I turned up a single entry for Howard's criminal record, a drunk driving charge. 5:20 p.m., we met with Edith Tabor and broke the news of her brother's death. When she recovered from the shock, we interviewed her briefly.
It was Andy Howard. I know it was him. It had to be.
Why do you say that, Miss Tabor? There's something about this man Howard you haven't told us?
He's no good, Sergeant. He's no good at all. That's what I've been afraid of. I've been afraid of it right along.
Well, just how do you mean, ma'am? He's no good.
He's a tramp, a bum. Won't get a job. He's been living off my brother. He isn't normal. There's something wrong with him.
Well, how is it your brother put up with him?
Well, I told you he and Ralph were friends in the Navy. He did a big favor for Ralph once. He's been living off it ever since. Taking his clothes, borrowing his car, money, never paying it back.
Why do you think he killed your brother, miss?
I just know it, that's all. He did it.
He ever fight with your brother? Would you happen to know? Did he ever threaten him?
They had a big fight one night, about 2 weeks ago, I think. Andy kept sponging until Ralph got good and sick of it. Told Andy to go out and get a job. That's when the fight started.
You saw it, did you?
Ralph told me about it. Fist fight in the alley back of the apartment. Ralph knocked Andy down. Andy said he'd never forget it. He'd pay Ralph back. A couple of days after that, my brother said the two of them made up. Everything was all right. Ralph should have known better. He should have known better.
Just a few more questions, Miss Tabor. Can you tell us anything about Andy Howard's background, where he's from, who his friends are, places he usually goes?
No. I didn't know much about him. He's from the South, I think, Alabama. Ralph's friends can tell you more about him than I can.
All right. Had you heard anything lately about Howard planning to move out of his apartment?
No, nothing. When I heard that he did move and Ralph was missing, I knew something was wrong. That's why I called you. If I'd only known before. Poor Ralph, if I only knew.
I'll try to take it easy, ma'am. We'll arrange for a car to drive you home, all right?
It's so hard to understand. It's hard. For anyone to kill Ralph like that, horrible. He was so good. He was my brother.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you say to a man who kills your brother? How do you understand him? What do you tell him?
Well, why even try?
What?
Let the jury tell him. Before we had the victim's sister, Edith Tabor, driven to her home, we asked her about the television set in her brother's apartment, but she was unable to explain its absence. Burglary detail had already been notified about the case, and the pawn shop detail alerted. An APB had been gotten out containing a complete description of the TV set along with the serial numbers. A few minutes after we got back from dinner that night, we had an answer on it. A pawn shop operator on West 7th Street called in with the information that he'd taken in a television set with identical description and serial numbers as that of Tabor's. Ed and I drove out to the pawn shop and checked the operator's buy book. The set had been pawned the day after the murder. The serial numbers and description matched in every detail. The description and signature of the man who pawned it matched perfectly with that of Ralph Tabor's friend, Andy Howard. The set was impounded, and just on a chance, we had Dean Bergman dust it for latent fingerprints.
Dean? Oh, hi, Ed, Friday.
How are you making out? Any luck?
It's not bad. Have a look here. Yeah. Picked up 4 sets of prints off it, all told. These here are the dead man's.
Yeah?
These here, they belong to the pawn shop operator.
Mm-hmm.
These belong to his son, helps him in the shop.
Yeah?
Guess this is the one you're looking for. 2 clean index prints.
Did you classify them?
Checked them against prints from Andrew Howard's package.
Yeah.
They match.
When we checked in for work the following morning, we got the coroner's report on Ralph Tabor. Cause of death was listed as cerebral hemorrhage and multiple fractures of the skull caused by blows from a heavy blunt object. The other reports from the crime lab didn't give us much help. The better part of the next 3 days, Ed and I, along with Al Shambra and Joe LaMonica, held detailed interviews with the known friends and associates of the murder victim, Ralph Tabor, and the number 1 suspect, Andy Howard. The information we picked up was incorporated in a supplementary all-points bulletin and gotten out immediately. We found out that Andy Howard had a sailor's uniform in his possession, and though unauthorized, he wore it frequently. It bore the insignia of a quartermaster first class on the sleeve. We also found out Howard had identical tattoos on each forearm, the picture of an unfurled American flag with the name Betty D below it. We had the city covered for the suspect. 4 days passed, no trace of him. Saturday, November 24th, we got an urgent call from Homicide Commander Lieutenant Mort Gear in San Diego.
On the highway? Uh-huh. When was that, Mort? I see. Hey, Joe, you got a pencil there?
Look, here you go.
Thanks. Hey, Mort, he's pretty sure, huh? Uh-huh. Well, yeah, it seems to tie in all right. How's that? Well, I don't know for sure. We'll check with Captain Lorman right now and let you know. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Goodbye. Good break.
What do you have to say?
One of their traffic men down there, a fellow by the name of Jack Ladd, stopped a car on the highway going out of town speeding.
Yeah?
Ladd says a man answers Andy Howard's description perfectly, right down to the tattoo on the forearm. No doubt about the car the guy was driving was Tabor's description and license number. Even used Tabor's identification.
When did all this happen?
The day after the murder. They'd have held the man, but they didn't have the information at the time.
That's a dumb break. Which way was Howard going, did they tell you?
Yeah, into town. They figure he's still there someplace.
How do you mean?
Found the car an hour ago, abandoned.
10 minutes after the phone call from San Diego, Captain Lorman checked back in at the office, and Ed and I met with him. We told him about the information San Diego had phoned in, and he gave Ed and I an immediate okay for the trip south. We went down to the garage, picked up a car, and 6 hours later, we checked in with Sergeant Russ Ormsby, San Diego Homicide.
What's this, another fishing trip, or are we doing business this time?
Afraid it's all business, Russ, the Andy Howard thing. Mort Gear around?
No, I won't be back till later. I can brief you on it, though. McGuire and I have been working it on this end.
Well, how about Tabor's car? You still got it staked out?
Yeah, no nibbles yet. What do you figure? If nothing happens, pull it in tomorrow, process it for prints?
Yeah.
We've had something warmer than that since Mort Gear called you. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, what do you got?
Only came up with it a couple of hours ago. Field interrogation card, made out last night, west end of town.
Mm-hmm.
Beat officer by the name of Driscoll questioned a man and a girl parked in a car out that way last night. There's a description on the man.
Thanks, Russ. Yeah, fits Howard all the way in here.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't get much closer, huh?
We checked out the car they were in. Belongs to the girl.
Yeah. Look here, Ed. He's still using Tabor's identification.
Yeah.
All right, where's it go from here, Russ? You got this Andy Howard spotted?
No. Beat man Driscoll, he didn't know the guy from Adam.
Yeah, well, where's that leave us?
The girl Howard was with. Driscoll knew her.
We contacted the beat officer, Driscoll. The girl who'd been spotted sitting in a parked car the night before with murder suspect Andy Howard was identified as Helen McClung, a waitress in a downtown cocktail bar. A stakeout was placed in her apartment, and she was brought in for interrogation.
Well, he's not a good friend of mine. I don't know where he lives. Don't know what he does. I hardly even know him, Sergeant.
You were out for a drive with him the night before last, that right?
Sure, I don't deny that. We went out for a ride. That's all there is to it.
You sure you don't know where this man lives, Helen?
Not exactly, no. He's staying at a hotel downtown, I think. We went for a ride, and I dropped him off at the bus line. That's all there was to it.
Do you expect to see him again? You have any dates with him in the next couple of days?
No. To tell you the truth, I thought I had a date. Didn't work out. Nothing ever works out. Phone this morning, called it off.
Tell you why?
He gave some lame excuse. I found out the real reason, though.
What's that? You mind telling us?
No, I don't mind. Got a date with my girlfriend instead. Claire Peterson. Burned me up a little, but I don't mind.
Well, where's your girlfriend live, Helen?
You mean Claire? Out on Rose Avenue, 1500 block. I'm not sure, though.
Is he going to pick her up there?
I guess so. Why?
When's the date for, do you know?
Yeah, tomorrow night.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action.
Compare Fatima with your present king-size cigarette.
Yes, compare Fatima with the king-size cigarette you are now smoking.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Friends, to show our confidence in Fatima, to convince you quickly, dramatically, that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes, we make this money-back guarantee.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before April 1st, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Switch to Fatima today. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Monday, November 26th, 10 a.m. After checking her name through San Diego R&I, we finally located the address of the girl Claire Peterson, who was supposed to have a date with our murder suspect Andy Howard that night. She lived in a small apartment house in the southeast end of town. The manager told us that she'd already left for work. We ran it down. The Peterson girl was employed as a cutter in a shirt factory down in the industrial district. We questioned her at her work. A tall, attractive girl, blonde, blue eyes, a small scar on her chin. She kept working while we talked to her.
Yeah, I have a date with Ralph Tabor tonight. Something the matter?
Afraid so, Miss Peterson. The first place, his name isn't Ralph Tabor.
No, I'm sorry. You must be wrong, officer. I was out with him just last Monday. I know that's his name, son. Everything he has, his car, his wallet, all his business papers. Guess you must have made a mistake.
No, it's no mistake, man. We checked it out pretty thoroughly. We'd like to talk to you about him if we could, please.
Well, there's not too much to tell. I just met him Monday night. It was with my girlfriend, Helen. He wanted to go out with me, so I made a date. I didn't think there was anything wrong.
You said he's to meet you at your apartment, Miss Peterson. Did he give any specific time when he'd be there?
8 or 8:30, he said. Hey, what's wrong? Do you know? There's something wrong with the man. I ought to know, don't you think?
We want him for questioning, ma'am. You any idea where he lives?
No, I haven't. One of the hotels downtown, I think. 5th Street or 6th Street. I wouldn't know for sure. Why do you want him? Can't you tell me, please?
We believe he's committed a murder, Miss Peterson. Matter of fact, we're sure of it.
What do you want me to do?
If he calls up before your date tonight, don't do anything to discourage him. Tell him to meet you. If he wants to postpone the date, try and make him come tonight. If you can't do that, try and find out where he's staying. Don't let him know we talked to you.
Well, all right, I can try. You'll be there when he comes to my apartment, I mean.
Yes, ma'am, we'll be there. You'll be protected all the way.
Well, what do you do?
Ma'am?
What do you do? You say he's a murderer. He must be desperate. What do you do? How do you arrest him?
It's his choice, ma'am, any way he wants it. As soon as we left the plant where the Peterson girl worked, we called Sergeant Tony McGuire at San Diego Homicide Detail, and he made arrangements for an immediate stakeout at the girl's apartment. At 7 p.m., Ed and I, along with Russ Ormsby and Tony McGuire, drove out to supplement the men on stakeout at the girl's apartment. 8 o'clock, 9, 9:30, 10 p.m., still no sign of the suspect. At midnight, our relief team showed up, and we headed back for the office. When we got there was a bulletin from the Highway Patrol reporting that earlier that night, a man partially identified as Andy Howard had been seen heading north from San Diego on U.S. Highway 101 toward Los Angeles. We got Captain Lorman on the phone, briefed him on the latest developments, and told him that photographs of the suspect had been distributed to all officers. The next 10 hours failed to turn up anything new. San Diego officers continued to cover their end. 11:15 p.m. the next day, we drove back to Los Angeles and reported in at homicide. There was a note in the book from Lorman asking us to check in early the following morning, so Ed and I signed out and went home to get some sleep. The next morning, 1:45 a.m. Hello, Friday talking.
Sorry to wake you up, Friday. This is Hawkins down at the business office.
Oh, yeah, Hawkins. What do you got?
Beat officer out in Wilshire called in 2 or 3 minutes ago. He figures he has your murder suspect for you, Andy Howard. Bring him in now.
Well, what about identification? He checked that over?
No identification. He's wearing a sailor's uniform.
What about insignia, his rating?
Quartermaster first class.
After I hung up, I phoned Ed, got him out of bed, and the two of us drove down to the office where we picked up the suspect and took him to the interrogation room. During the interrogation, we found a wallet concealed on his person. It contained a driver's license, credit card, half a dozen other means of identification. All of them were made out to Ralph Tabor. After an hour of questioning, he'd still admit nothing. He sat hunched over in his chair, tearing an old envelope into small pieces and dropping them on the floor in front of him.
This will make the 10th time I told you. I don't know what happened to Ralph. I didn't take his car or his television set. I didn't leave the city. I wasn't in San Diego last week. Now, if you don't believe me, you prove I'm lying.
We didn't pull you in on the guess, Andy. We'll prove it.
You mind telling me how?
We got 3 people on their way in here right now. Ralph Tabor's sister, his landlady, a man by the name of Sims, pawn shop dealer. Mean anything to you?
My word against theirs.
3-1, mister. They got the odds in their favor.
Look, why don't we straighten this out once and for all? You think I killed my friend Ralph. Why? Explain it to me. Why should I kill him?
Look, I wouldn't know, Andy. Maybe you'd like to tell us. His sister says he was pretty good to you.
She was good to me. I guess she didn't tell you what I did for him overseas when we were in the Navy together.
No, she didn't tell us.
She wouldn't. Stupid women. I haven't found one of them worth anything. Frustrated. She needs a husband. That's her trouble.
She claims her brother was paying the bills for you, Andy. He gave you clothes, money, his car. She says you were living off of him.
Lousy woman. That's all the thanks I get for all I did for Ralph. I borrowed a few dollars, yeah. That's all. Kept throwing it up to me, him and his sister, after all I did for him.
What are you trying to say, Andy?
Could have been different, Ralph and me. What do you want me to say?
Did you kill him? Did you kill him, Andy?
You can't explain it that way. It's not as simple as that.
Didn't?
No, it's all mixed up together. It's complicated. It's not simple at all. I mean, with your best friend especially. It's more of a mistake. I mean, morally, I didn't mean to kill him. I just did. It's a mistake. Terrible mistake.
You want to give us a statement, Howard? Stenographer will take it down.
Oh, yeah, all right, in a minute. Just want to make sure you understand. I mean about Ralph. And all I did for him.
Yeah.
No gratitude at all. You blame me? I mean, after all I did for him, you blame me?
Well, you should have remembered, Andy, about gratitude.
Yeah?
Doesn't mean much when you have to ask for it.
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On February 4th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 89, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial.
And now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, you've been listening to Dragnet for the past 28 minutes. Now, it'll take you less than 28 seconds to prove that Fatima is the best of all king-size cigarettes. Just compare Fatima with the king-size cigarette you're now smoking. Fatima filters the smoke through a long distance of 85 millimeters. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
Andrew Thomas Howard was tried and convicted of murder in the second degree. He is now serving his term in the state penitentiary, San Quentin, California. Second-degree murder is punishable by imprisonment from 5 years to life.
Ladies and gentlemen, right now, inflation is America's #1 menace on the home front. It's the one enemy that can lick America. We can help prevent this by working harder, working better. The fight against inflation will succeed only if all of us get behind it.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips, Joyce McCluskey, and Virginia Gregg. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Next, it's David Harding and Counter Spy on NBC.
and gentlemen, due to technical difficulties beyond our control at the moment, the Dragnet program, originally scheduled at this period, has been postponed temporarily. It will be heard in just a few moments.
Partners Ed Jake. Boss is Captain Steve. My name's Friday. We're on the way out from the office. 10:38 a.m. when we got to Paris Avenue. Number 213.
Yes?
How do you do, Miss Wagner? Police officers, I'm Sergeant Jacobs. This is my partner, Sergeant Friday.
Oh, yes, Sergeant. I've been expecting you. Would you come in, please?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hope you'll excuse the way the house looks, officers. Right in the middle of packing, getting ready to move.
I understand. Try not to keep you, Miss Wagner.
So much to do, making arrangements for Dorothy's funeral, the undertaker. Then all this moving business on top of it. I couldn't bear to stay here any longer, though.
Yes, ma'am, we understand. We'll make it as brief as we can. I'd like to have you tell us about this trouble that your sister had, as much as you know about it, I mean.
Plain out-and-out murder, in my opinion. Might just as well have taken a gun and killed her, no difference.
You knew all about the relationship between your sister Dorothy and this man Reynolds, is that correct?
Yes, right from the beginning. I was there when they met. Would you mind if I went ahead packing these few things here? My sister's things. I'd like to finish up before I leave. Have an appointment at noon, the mortuary.
Surely, go right ahead.
A few books, knickknacks, personal things of Dorothy's. Foolish woman. I gave her credit for more sense.
Now, about this man Reynolds, Miss Wagner.
I saw through him right from the start. I tried to tell Dorothy. He was a fortune hunter, money hungry. Of course, she wouldn't listen. She always knew better.
Charles R. Reynolds. Is that the name you knew him by, ma'am?
Yes, that's right. Dorothy and I met him one Sunday night in the hotel dining room. Two of us always had dinner at the hotel Sunday nights every Sunday.
That's the hotel out on Wilshire you told us about?
That's correct. It'll be exactly a month this coming Sunday. He came up to our table and introduced himself, claimed he knew my father when he was alive. Dad owned some big packing plants in the East. He died 9 years ago, left the estate to Dorothy and me.
I see. Would you have anything to add to the description that you gave us on Reynolds, Miss Wagner? I mean, can you think of anything unusual about him at all? Scars, peculiar mannerisms, anything like that?
No, nothing special. Dressed well, as I say, apparently cultured, well-traveled.
Mm-hmm.
He was handsome enough, attractive. I knew he was only after our money, though, playing up to Dorothy that way, kissing her hand, taking her out all the time. Probably would have tried the same thing with me. It's lucky I knew better.
How did you after the first meeting with him, Miss Wagner? Did you start dating your sister Dorothy right away?
Yes, the next night. Called here at our home and asked Dorothy to the theater. I think he was going to ask me, but he was too smart for that. I knew him for what he was. Imagine that. Poems Dorothy wrote in high school. Love poems. Silly. She never did get it out of her head.
You and your sister lived alone here in the house, did you, ma'am?
Yes, Dorothy and I and the maid. I don't want to stay here after what's happened, though. I'm going to my cousin's in Vermont. Never want to see this place again.
Yes, ma'am, I can understand. How soon after you met Reynolds did he marry your sister?
A little over 2 weeks. He'd been seeing her almost every night, taking her out dancing to the theaters, big dinners, bringing her home late. They'd sit here in the living room. I could hear them from my bedroom upstairs laughing, him telling her how beautiful she was. 42-year-old woman, imagine that.
You're about the same age your sister was?
Just about. A little older. People always took us for twins, though. Here's a snapshot of me taken in my 20s. The boy with me there, he wanted to marry me. My money, of course, that's all he wanted. Too bad. Dorothy never seemed to realize that about men. Girls from wealthy families, they have to be careful.
We understand Reynolds took your sister out of town to be married, is that right?
Yes, Las Vegas. Reynolds had told her his bank funds were tied up temporarily in a Canadian bank. He wrote Dorothy a check for $10,000, and she gave him her check for the same amount. He said he wanted to book reservations for a round-the-world trip for both of them.
I see.
The same day Dorothy gave him the check, he cashed it. The bank called her about it, and she said it was perfectly all right. An hour after he cashed it, Reynolds disappeared. No trace of him. Of course, his check's worthless. We found that out.
Mm-hmm. You figured that's the only reason your sister took her own life?
There's no other reason. Wasn't the money so much. Dorothy has her share of the estate. It's a shame, I suppose. Awful shame. Disappointment. She should have known better, a woman her age.
Had your sister ever been married before, Miss Wagner?
Yes.
when she was 18. Ran off to Chicago and married a young fellow. She claimed she loved him, too. Naturally, he was after our money. My father and I went and brought her home. We had the marriage annulled. It was that way all her life. 6 men. They brought Dorothy nothing but misery. And this was the last, this Charles Reynolds.
How about his background, ma'am, his business connections? He ever mention any of that to you or your sister?
Claimed he had interests all over. South America, Australia. Seemed to have plenty of money. Guess his kind always has. Do you think you'll find him?
We're going to try, Miss Wagner.
Dorothy went upstairs to her bedroom and stayed there. She looked so strange. She took out some pressed flowers from a book. Some boy had given them to her once years ago. Don't know who. She just sat on the edge of her bed and stared at them, old pressed flowers. Next morning, the maid came upstairs, and Dorothy was lying on the floor. Empty bottle of pills next to her. Awful disgrace. Never happened before in our family.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind, Miss Wagner, we'd like to get as many particulars about this man Reynolds as you can remember.
There. That's the last. I don't know what else to tell you, officer. All I know is I was young when Dorothy was young. I could have had a man if I wanted. But I didn't run off when I was 18 to marry a boy. I knew my duty. It wasn't proper. It wasn't a love. I didn't run off as a middle-aged woman to marry a fortune hunter either. What made her do it?
I wouldn't know, ma'am. She was your sister.
What kind of a man was he? What kind of a mind? Making love, kissing her, just to take her money. Imagine. Selling somebody with a kiss.
Well, it's not the first time, ma'am.
Is that so?
Look it up. You'll find it in the Bible. 11:18 a.m. We continued to interview the victim's sister for another 40 minutes, and then we left the Wagner home, drove back to the office, and continued our investigation of the suspect, Charles R. Reynolds. As far as we were concerned, the criminal was new to us, but the crime wasn't. The marriage racket's as old as any con game on earth, and as con games go, it's one of the lowest. It trades on one of the most natural and normal instincts a man or a woman has, a desire for companionship, a home, and a family. And for the sake of an easy dollar, it betrays the victim and the instinct ruthlessly, regardless of the consequences. In the case of 42-year-old heiress Dorothy Wagner, the disappointment was too much to cope with. For her, the marriage game ended in the front parlor of a mortuary on South Hoover Street. For the suspect, Charles Reynolds, it had continued to be a paying business until he was stopped. After homicide detail completed their investigation of the case and it was definitely determined that Dorothy Wagner took her own life, the matter was turned over to us. 11:50 a.m. We got off a request to Las Vegas asking them for all the information on the marriage, and then I contacted the stats office and asked them to make a run on the suspect for us based on his detailed description and also on his method of operation. I went back down the hall and met Ed Jacobs at the R&I counter. How you doing?
Not too much luck, Joe. Forger didn't come up with anything either. Nothing on him in their files.
It's not much of a start, is it?
Apparently, this is the first time he's worked the town. Ours, we couldn't find anything on the name, not in the main file anyway.
What do you got there?
I asked John to check the correspondence file. He came up with this.
Out of Chicago, huh?
Yeah, it came in over 3 months ago. Inquiry from their bunco detail. Suspect name right here. Frank L. Richland.
Same angle, marriage racket. Yeah, the MO's pretty close. Any description?
Oh, here. What do you think?
6'1", 170 pounds, gray wavy hair, blue eyes, fair complexion. That's fairly close, could be.
Here's the alias list Richland uses, as long as your arm. Here's one caught our eye. Reynolds. Alias George A. Reynolds, Thomas R. Reynolds, alias C.H. Reynolds, alias Charles R. Reynolds.
Wants on him for forgery, bunco, grand theft. A lot of experience. How about a mugshot on this one?
None attached. No L.A. contacts either.
Well, we better get off a wire to Chicago PD, have them send us what they can on him. Ought to prove it one way or the other by the end of the week, maybe, huh?
Yeah. Copy his name down here.
Right.
Frank L. Richland. Correspondence number C143732. Chicago case number D-612-32. Attention, Lieutenant Smichaels.
I'm just thinking, Ed.
Huh?
The last time anyone saw Reynolds, when was it? 10, 12 days ago?
10 days ago, yeah. September 23rd, same day he cashed the check and took a run out.
Well, if he's working the city for the first time, he must figure he's had some fair luck. 10,000 on the first try, that's pretty encouraging.
Yeah?
If he gets the idea the town's a gold mine, he's not going to pull out stakes here.
Figures. Probably trying to reach a couple other women with the same angle. Could be he's working on it now.
Well, that's the problem.
What do you mean?
The women. Say he's been romancing 3 or 4 of them around town. He's got them all primed.
Huh?
How are you going to warn a woman about a thief before her purse is gone? After getting off a wire to Chicago regarding the suspect, which was in addition to the broadcast and the APB we'd gotten out on him, Ed Jacobs and I continued checking out the various contacts that he'd made in the city. We checked stores where he shopped, banks where he allegedly did business, restaurants and hotels which he reportedly patronized. It took 3 days of dull, steady legwork. You can say it much faster than you can do it. All of the bank references, without exception, were falsified. Where he made purchases, it was strictly cash dealing. The same for the restaurants he'd frequented. Besides meager descriptions of the man, the restaurant employees weren't able to help us much. At one of the 2 hotels, where we learned he was a guest for a full month, we finally netted half a lead. One of the bellboys told us that the man known as Charles Reynolds seemed to be pretty friendly with the head waiter in the hotel dining room, a Henry Kingsbury. We located Kingsbury in the dining room in mid-afternoon, directing arrangements for a large private party to be held that night. Across the dance floor, the orchestra was on the bandstand rehearsing, the musicians in their shirt sleeves. Kingsbury was reserved and not too cooperative.
Yes, I was acquainted with Mr. Reynolds, no more than the other guests, though. That's not the way we get it, Mr. Kingsbury. We hear you were pretty friendly with him. Only as far as my job goes. That's my business, making people feel at home, making them comfortable.
We understand Reynolds was a pretty heavy tipper, is that right?
He always took good care of me and the boys. The waiters was very generous.
Did he expect anything special in return for the tips that he gave you?
I don't think I understand.
Oh, I think you do. How about it?
Well, he was always very good to us, all of us. I could hardly refuse.
Refuse what?
When he first moved into the hotel, he became friendly with me, introduced himself, gave me a good tip in advance to take care of him. First few nights here, he spent at the cocktail bar, meeting people, buying a few drinks, getting acquainted. 3rd or 4th night, that's when he asked me.
Yeah?
He said when some prominent women came into the dining room, wealthy women, would I point them out to him? Single women, of course. I couldn't see any harm in it. He put a $20 bill in my hand. I said, yes, I would. After all, we have to look out for ourselves.
Did he expect anything else for those tips?
I don't know. I don't think it would be right if I told you. You know why we're here, Mr. Kingsbury. We leveled with you. We expect you to do the same with us. Well, there was the 2 Wagner sisters. They came here every Sunday night for dinner, regular routine for them.
Yeah?
Mr. Reynolds was at the bar. He asked who they were, and I told him. He seemed impressed. He asked me to help with an introduction to them, and I did. Next afternoon, he came to me again. He said he was taking one of the Wagner sisters to dinner that night. It was important to him. He gave me another big tip. Said he wanted us to roll out the red carpet for him that night.
What'd that consist of?
Well, special consideration, the best treatment in the house, I was to act as if I'd known him for years. Well, it was a good tip. I did what he asked. As I say, we have to look out for ourselves. This happened more than once, did it? 2 or 3 times, yeah. Miss Wagner, Dorothy Wagner, she seemed impressed. At the time, I didn't think anything was wrong with it.
You actually didn't know Reynolds, is that right? You'd never seen him before?
Well, I suppose, yes. I only found out later, though, reading the papers. I mean, what really happened. I didn't know what he was at the time. You couldn't see what Reynolds was up to? You didn't know what he was doing? No, naturally not. He was a good tipper. That's all I know. It was the money. We have to look out for ourselves.
Yeah.
I felt sorry about Miss Wagner. I went to the funeral. They couldn't say I'm to blame, could they? What happened? I mean, it's not on my conscience. You wouldn't say so, would you?
She's dead, mister. You figure it. Thursday, October 13th. The investigation continued. Still no sign of the suspect. We got an answer from Las Vegas and also from the Chicago PD's bunco detail on our inquiries. They enclosed mug shots and fingerprint classification of the suspect, Frank Richland, alias Charles R. Reynolds. The pictures were shown to witnesses and acquaintances who'd known the suspect, and they definitely established Frank Richland and Charles Reynolds as one and the same person. We got out a supplementary APB containing the latest information on the suspect. Saturday, October 15th, we got our second complaint on the marriage bunco artist, this time from the proprietress of a small chain of lunch counters in the San Pedro area.
a Miss Hagar Lindstrom. Ed and I drove down to the harbor area where we interviewed her at one of her lunch counters. She identified Richland's mugshot. Her story of the marriage swindle matched closely with that of the previous victim, Dorothy Wagner.
Yeah, he was a fine gentleman, Mr. John Richland. I don't know what happened. I don't know what to say.
He told you he was from England, Miss Lindstrom, is that right?
Yeah, he talked like English when he could speak good English, like from London or someplace. Says he builds boats, big ones.
I beg your pardon, ma'am?
Big boats.
Oh, yes.
He told me that's his business. He said he had lots of money. We would sail around the world on a honeymoon. Maybe he will come back still. I hope so.
I wouldn't count on that, Miss Lindstrom. Would you tell us this, please? How'd you happen to meet this man, Richland?
At the hotel up the street, the big hotel. I can show it to you. The one on Jackson Street.
Yes, ma'am.
They seem to know he was a rich man. Nice clothes he wore. He spent money a lot. When we got married, we spent lots of money.
Where were you married, ma'am?
We went down to Mexico. One weekend we went down there and we got married. It was romantic. Very nice. Even Lars liked it.
Who's that, ma'am?
Lars. That's him down the counter there. Lars, my brother.
Oh, well, your brother went along with you when you got married, is that right?
Lars and I go every place together. I don't do anything without Lars. Mr. Richland was nice about it. He didn't seem to mind Lars. Just a minute, they call him. Lars? Huh? Lars? Lars and I run the business together. The soda fountains we have. It's a long time. We have worked at it. Hard work.
Yes, ma'am, I guess so.
We make good living, not easy, though. That's why it was so bad. Mr. Richland, $3,000 it took.
Yeah, Hagar.
These are the police, Lars. They want to know about Mr. Richland.
How do you do?
How are you, sir?
Yeah, he was no good. When they find him, they hit him.
Now, the $3,000 he got from you, ma'am, how did that work? I mean, did you give him the money, lend it to him? Just what was it?
When we came back from Mexico from being married, Mr. Richland and me and Lars, he said he was waiting for money from his bank in New York. Mr. Richland said that. He wrote me a check for $3,000. I gave him our check for $3,000. Even Lars thought it was all right. Didn't you, Lars?
Yeah, he was crazy. His check was no good. He beat him up, they punched him good. That's quite a bit of money, Miss Lindstrom. What kind of a story did he give you?
He would buy the tickets for a honeymoon trip. That's what he said. A long trip together. Romantic. Mr. Richland and me and Lars. He didn't mind Lars coming along either. Did he, Lars?
No, he didn't mind.
Now, this Richland disappeared right after he cashed your check, is that
Yes,
right?
sir. He got the money and he was gone. 6 days ago. We never hurt him. I don't know why he did this to us. I thought he loved me. I thought he was my husband.
Mm-hmm. We haven't seen or heard anything of him since he disappeared?
Not me nor Lars. But maybe they know. That's why we call you officers.
Yes, ma'am?
We have this friend downtown, James Svensson. He met Mr. Richland once when he was here.
Mm-hmm.
Svensson called Lars on the telephone. He said he saw Mr. Richland downtown, going into the hotel.
Are you sure it was Richland?
Yeah, he said he thought so.
How long ago did you see him?
Last night.
We got on the phone right away and talked to the friend of the Lindstroms, James Swenson. He gave us the name and location of the downtown hotel where he thought he'd seen the suspect, Richland, the night before. Ed called the hotel and checked with the desk clerk.
Yeah, that's right. Fairly tall, wavy gray hair, fair complexion. Might be registered as John Richland. That's right. Okay, we'll check with you later. Bye.
Any luck?
Guy registered as Harold Richland. Descriptions match.
He's still there?
Checked out this morning.
You are listening to Dragnet, authentic stories of your police force in action. Compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette.
1. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters for your protection.
2. Fatima's length cools the smoke for your protection.
3. Fatima's length gives you those extra puffs, 21% longer than standard cigarette size.
And in Fatima, you get an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
To show our confidence in Fatima, we make this money-back guarantee to every king-size cigarette smoker.
Buy a pack of Fatimas. Enjoy Fatima quality, extra mildness, and superbly blended tobaccos.
If you're not convinced Fatima is better than the king-size cigarette you're now smoking, just return the pack and the unsmoked Fatimas before August 1st, 1952, and we'll give you your money back plus postage. Fatima, Box 37, New York 1.
Remember, each king-size Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality.
Switch to Fatima today. Best of all, king-size cigarettes.
Saturday, October 15th, 2:30 p.m. Ed Jacobs and I drove back downtown to the hotel where the bunco suspect, Richland, supposedly had been staying. The desk clerk definitely identified his mugshot and told us that the man registered as Harold Richland had checked out a few minutes before 9 a.m. that morning. No forwarding address. We examined the room he'd been staying in, talked to the residents and the employees of the hotel, but we failed to come up with a single lead as to the suspect's whereabouts. During the week that followed, we received 3 different kickbacks on the all points we'd gotten out on Richland. We checked each one of them out, but they failed to materialize into anything. We stayed on it. October 19th, Wednesday, 7:50 a.m.
Morning. Hi.
What's doing?
Charlie Frost called from forgery and went over to talk to him and came up with something on the Richland thing.
Yeah, what's that?
Picked up a woman last night, name of Helen Stokes. Got a good-sized record, checks, bunco records.
Yeah.
Got her this time on a check beef. She wrote one for $3,500.
Yeah, well, how's it tie in with us?
Check was made out to Harold Richland.
8:15 a.m. We signed out, drove over to the main jail, and had the forgery suspect, Helen Stokes, brought to one of the interrogation rooms. She was a dark-haired, fairly attractive woman in her early 30s. As a bunco artist, she apparently knew her trade pretty well. She was relaxed and talkative. She told us Richland had introduced himself to her at a Palm Springs resort the week before.
When did the business of the check come up?
As soon as we got back in town, he gave me the story his money was in a New York bank. I played along with the gag. He wrote me a piece of wallpaper for $3,500. I did the same for him. What's the difference? Nobody hurt. Both checks, solid rubber.
Maybe you forget, ma'am. There's a law against it.
It's only a gag. I told you that. I would have loved to have seen his face when he found out the check was a phony. You don't think they're going to push the charge against me, do you?
No, we've already told you, miss. You wrote a bad one. There's a law against it.
I was only stringing him along. I knew his check was a phony, too. I didn't have anything to gain. Look, suppose I help you find him. Will you give me a hand on this? See I get a break?
We can't make any promises. You cooperate, help us find Richland, be taken into consideration.
All right, you're on. You can tell Loverboy I tipped you.
You know where Richland is now?
I can come close to it.
How do you mean?
I know where he'll be next week.
On further questioning, Helen Stokes told us that on one occasion while she was at Palm Springs with Richland, she prowled his hotel room, went through his personal effects, and read his correspondence. She told us that she read one letter from a friend of Richland's inviting him for a visit the week of October 31st. She also noted Richland's answer accepting the invitation. She said the friend's name was Maurice Archer and that the letter came from an Ocean Boulevard address in the beach town of Venice. We went back to the office, ran Archer's name through R&I, and found out that he had a previous criminal record of petty theft and grand theft. We located him at an Ocean Boulevard address and brought him in for interrogation. If there was any trouble, he wanted no part of it. After talking to him only a few minutes, he broke down and told us where we could find Richland, an address out near the end of Melrose Avenue. It was an apartment court. The suspect was registered in one of the rear cottages under the name of Reynolds. He wasn't at home. Ed and I went on stakeout inside the cottage. We waited. 6:30 p.m.
Somebody coming in?
Yeah. Hold it right there, Mr. Police Officers.
What's this? Hands out in the open. Come on, up.
I don't understand this.
Want to shake him down, Ed?
Yeah. All right, it's clean.
Look, I don't know what you want, officers, but this is a mistake.
Your name Charles Reynolds?
Reynolds? No, my name's Richland.
That'll do. Let's go.
No, just a minute, please. What am I accused of? Who's accusing me?
Last pigeon you had lined up. She wanted us to tell you. Helen Stokes.
Stokes. Phony dame. You can't believe her, officer. She's phony. She's nothing but a con artist.
It's a good reason to believe her.
What?
Takes one to know one. 7:05 p.m. After checking through the cottage, Ed and I drove Richland downtown and took him to the interrogation room. He'd admit nothing. We called Miss Wagner, the sister of his first victim, and she was still in town. She agreed to come down to the office to confront the suspect. So did the second victim, Hagar Lindstrom, and her brother, Lars. Cars were sent out to pick them up. At a special show-up, Richland was picked out as the guilty man. We took him back to the interrogation room. Miss Wagner was the first one called in. She again identified Richland, alias Reynolds, as the man who had married and swindled her sister, Dorothy.
All right, Miss Wagner, that'll be all. Thanks very much for coming in.
Yes, all right. Thank you.
Look, I don't know that woman. I'm not trying to be stubborn, but I'm afraid you're wrong. I'm not the man you want.
Lindstrom's are outside, Joe, waiting.
All right, bring him in.
Miss Lindstrom, Mr. Lindstrom, come in, please.
Miss Lindstrom? Mr. Lindstrom?
Yeah, it's him.
Yeah. I don't know you. I've never seen you before.
You married me, John. You wanted to be my husband, you said that. Why did you want to hurt me?
Sorry, I don't know her.
You said for you and me and Lars to go on the boat, honeymoon around the world. You and me and Lars, you said all those things. Why did you want to hurt us?
No, why?
Is that enough for you?
I don't know what they're talking about.
They bait you up. Take it easy, Mr. Lindstrom.
Lars.
Lies. He said we all go around the world, honeymoon.
All right. Get him out of here, huh?
Okay, Mr. Lindstrom. Thanks.
It's no good, Lars. Come.
Yeah, Chief. Out this way, please.
Yeah, find him, hit him.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Richland, you ready to give us a statement?
All right, I'll tell you. You can't blame me for that one, though. You wouldn't have gone through with that deal yourself. Nobody would have.
What's wrong? Nice-looking girl.
Sure, I don't mean that.
What do you mean?
The big clown, her brother Lars.
Yeah?
How'd you like to take that along on a honeymoon?
The story you have just heard was true. The names were changed to protect the innocent. On January 14th, trial was held in Superior Court, Department 88, City and County of Los Angeles, State of California. In a moment, the results of that trial. Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. Friends, the reason Fatima can make the money-back guarantee you heard earlier can be summed up in 2 words. Fatima quality. Just prove Fatima quality yourself. Just compare Fatima with any other king-size cigarette. Fatima's length filters the smoke 85 millimeters, cools the smoke, all for your protection. You get those extra puffs because Fatima is 21% longer than standard cigarette size. And Fatima gives you an extra mild and soothing smoke, plus the added protection of Fatima quality. Prove it today. Buy Fatima.
Frank Richland was tried and convicted of 2 counts of grand theft and 3 counts of forgery of a fictitious name. After serving his term in the state penitentiary at San Quentin, California, he is to be released to Chicago authorities for prosecution. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment for not less than 1, nor more than 10 years. Forgery of a fictitious name is punishable by imprisonment from 2 to 14 years. You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Heard tonight were Barney Phillips and Virginia Gregg. Script by Jim Moser. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Fatima Cigarettes, best of all king-size cigarettes, has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
February 18th, hear the Gala City Service Silver Radio Jubilee on NBC.